Chapter 1149. Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna walked through the valley together, and one giant dragon carcass after another appeared before their eyes. Even the smallest of these giant dragon carcasses was several tens of meters in length, and they belonged to a species that was born with small bodies. Generally speaking, the larger dragon carcasses could reach several hundred meters in length. All of the giant dragon carcasses were exuding powerful dragon might, and their bones were imbued with a ferocious aura of wildness and rich energy fluctuations. Gu Yuna paused momentarily as she walked and said, "There are soul bones in all of these complete dragon carcasses. If you need them, feel free to take them." Nar. Lu Yuan faltered slightly upon hearing this, and he turned to Gu Yuna with a surprised expression. Even though he was here for the Mountain Dragon King torso bone, he wasn't actually interested in the other soul bones. However, Gu Yuna seemed to be implying that he could take whatever he wanted. Could it be that he could take the soul bones out and give them to others as well? Lu Yuan was rather taken aback by this. One had to realize that all of the soul bones here were divine-grade soul bones, and they were extremely precious. This was the wealth of the entire dragon tribe. Neither the dragon tribe nor soul beasts have any use for soul bones, so if these soul bones can be of help to you and our cause, I'm sure they'll agree to it. Besides, you're also a member of the dragon tribe, so these are also your treasures, so don't try to disassociate yourself from the dragon tribe. Gu Yuna appraised Lu Yuan with a smile as she spoke. Of course not, but seeing as you've brought this up, I do want to take a few of them with me. Perhaps they'll be able to use them. That won't be a problem, right, Nar? Lu Yuan asked. No problem, as long as you're happy, Gu Yuna replied. Phew, thank you, Nar. Lu Yuan heaved a sigh of relief as he chuckled. There's no need to thank me. Just treat it as a reward for reviving them in the future, Gu Yuna replied in a nonchalant manner. This. Lu Yuan faltered slightly upon hearing this, and he stared blankly at Gu Yuna. Poochie. Gu Yuna couldn't help but burst into laughter at the sight of Lu Yuan's stunned expression. She then put on a serious expression as she said, If you need these soul bones for yourself, then you can use as many as you want, even if you have to take all of the soul bones in the entire Dragon Valley. However, if you want to give them to them, then you'll have to pay a price. I'm not a generous person. I'm very stingy. Gu Yuna snorted as a faint smile appeared on her face. Lu Yuan pinched the tip of Gu Yuna's nose with a resigned expression as he said, You sure know how to differentiate. Of course we have to be clear about that. The things of the Dragon Clan cannot be used by irrelevant people, especially if those people are my rivals in love. Seeing as you've already decided to bring a few soul bones to them, you've already accepted the reward for your resurrection. You have to be more careful when you resurrect in the future. In the words of you humans, you've already accepted the reward, Gu Yuna said in a tender voice. Got it. Lu Yuan pinched Gu Yuna's cheek with a faint smile. In reality, he knew that Gu Yuna was saying this on purpose so that he wouldn't feel guilty over the soul bones he had given her. After all, he was absorbing soul bones and other things for the sake of the Dragon Clan. Furthermore, he had an inseparable relationship with the Dragon Clan, so he could be considered a member of the Dragon Clan, so it was perfectly justified for him to take advantage of the wealth left behind by the Dragon Clan. However, if he were to give a few soul bones to Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, Hulina and the others, then things would be different. To the Dragon Clan, Hulina and the others were outsiders, so they had no reason to use the wealth of the Dragon Clan. This was why Gu Yuna had said that these soul bones were the reward for resurrecting the dead Dragon Clan members. In that case, he would be able to accept the soul bones without any qualms and give them to Zhu Zhuqing and the others. Furthermore, even if Di Tian and the others were to ask about it, they would have a reasonable explanation. What a beautiful woman! Lu Yuan couldn't help but sigh internally at the sight of Gu Yuna's beautiful features. Being with Gu Yuna really was a very relaxing thing to do. Back when he was with Chihiro Snow, there was always some friction between them, but when he was with Gu Yuna, They had never argued, not even once. Ever since they had started dating, Gu Yuna had never once lost her temper, nor had she ever disobeyed him. She was as gentle as water, and his heart was unwittingly filled with warmth and tenderness. Lu Yuan could confidently say that there was no man in this world who could resist such a gentle and considerate Gu Yuna. Regardless of whether it was as a girlfriend or as a wife, Gu Yuna was the most suitable person for him. Sometimes, even Lu Yuan felt that he had let her down. It was just a pity that he was destined to be a scumbag for the rest of his life. If there was an afterlife, perhaps it would be a wonderful thing for him to be with Gu Yuna alone. Holding Gu Yuna's hand, Lu Yuan couldn't help but have a hint of affection in his eyes. Gu Yuna was slightly taken aback by the doting look in Lu Yuan's eyes. After a brief moment, she smiled. She knew that Lu Yuan had already understood her intentions. After all, this man was extraordinarily smart, and such a small thing couldn't be hidden from him at all. I was just fulfilling a request of yours, but you turned it into a deal. Sigh. Lu Yuan sighed softly. He was naturally referring to the matter of reviving the many fallen dragons in the dragon tomb after becoming a god. It's all the same. Gu Yuna smiled mischievously and said, in any case, in my heart, you're doing this for me, and not just for a few soul bones. That's true. The value of a few soul bones is completely incomparable to reviving so many dragons in the dragon tomb. It's about the same with you. How about you give me a special service? Just treat it as me taking the rest of the reward in advance? Lu Yuan suggested with a faint smile. Screw you, dream on. Gu Yuna rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan, and quickly walked forward while holding his hand. Nar, walk slowly. There's no hurry, Lu Yuan said in a gentle voice. Gu Yuna didn't seem to notice, and her walking speed was still extremely fast. As Lu Yuan walked, he looked at the blushing Gu Yuna, and he couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. Nar is still Nar, she's still so easily teased. Sensing Lu Yuan's gaze, Gu Yuna's beautiful face turned even redder. She and Lu Yuan had been honest with each other many times, but when Lu Yuan mentioned a special service, she felt that it was something improper. It seemed that Bibidan had complained to her about something similar. Seeing Gu Yuna's beautiful face as red as an apple, Lu Yuan wanted to tease her again, but suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Ding, sign-in complete. Reward issued. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a mysterious treasure chest. Ding, would the host like to open it? Open it, Lu Yuan said indifferently. As soon as his voice fell, a treasure chest that only he could see directly appeared in front of him. Then, it suddenly opened, and a golden light suddenly burst out. Lu Yuan stopped abruptly, and the system's voice rang out immediately after. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining Clear Chi Scripture, Part 2. Chapter 1150. Ding, congratulations to host for obtaining the Clear Chi Scripture, Part 2. Ding, congratulations to host for obtaining the 9 secrets, Lin. Ding, congratulations to host for obtaining a half-step God King rank Golden Dragon Soul Ring. Ding. Congratulations to host for increasing the age of all your soul rings by 300,000 years. A series of system notifications rang in Lu Yuan's ears, causing him to open his mouth slightly. His face was blank as he fell into a state of complete shock. So many rewards? Lu Yuan couldn't help but murmur softly. After checking in for so many years, this was the first time he had received so many rewards at once. Among them, the weakest reward was a 300,000-year upgrade to all his soul rings. What the F*King system did in one go. All of his soul rings had been upgraded to 300,000 years, and Lu Yuan felt an extremely dense energy surging into his body. Even his physique, which was already at the level of a first-class god, seemed to have improved a little. Originally, his soul rings were close to 600,000 years old. Now, each of his soul rings were close to 900,000 years old. This was simply unheard of. The strongest soul beast on the continent, the Soul Emperor, was 800,000 years old. This gap was frightening. Lu Yuan's heart eased slightly as he turned to look at the half-step godly king-ranked Golden Dragon Soul Ring. As the leader of the 9 Dragon Kings, the Golden Dragon was second only to the Golden Dragon King and Silver Dragon King. It was the third most powerful being in the dragon tribe. It was a pity that he was heavily targeted by the God realm during the War of the Gods and had long been beaten to the point where not even his bones remained. As for how Lu Yuan knew about this matter, it was naturally because Gu Yuna revealed it to him. The Golden Dragon Soul Ring was the highest quality soul ring Lu Yuan had obtained so far. It surpassed the Ice Dragon King, Fire Dragon King, and Azura's Origin Soul Ring. This soul ring could definitely push Lu Yuan's strength to a whole new level. Good stuff. The system is really generous this time. Lu Yuan sighed and turned his attention to the first 2 items. The Golden Dragon Soul Ring and the Golden Dragon Soul Ring were precious, but they paled in comparison to the first 2 items. 9 Secrets. Lin, the secret character of Lin, allows one to step into the God-forbidden domain, invincible against those of the same level, and also invincible against those of a higher level. It was a simple sentence, but it raised the prestige of the secret of Lin. The 9 esotericas were the pinnacle skills of the human race. Each of them was extraordinarily powerful. The esotericas of the swordsman's secret art of blood rebirth was truly heaven-defying, and the secret art of Lin in front of him did not lose to the esotericas of the swordsman's secret art at all. In fact, in terms of battle, the effect of the secret character of Lin was even more obvious. Amazing, it's actually the secret of Lin. Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. For a battle maniac like him, the secret Lin and secret Do were his 2 favorite secret techniques among the 9 secret. Although he didn't get the secret Do, which had the strongest attack power, he got the secret Lin, which was a secret technique that allowed him to cheat beyond his level. It was really something to be happy about. After carefully feeling it, Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows. As expected of the secret of Lin. It's really profound, but it's really difficult to comprehend. He had the secret of swordsman for a long time, but it was only recently that he cultivated it. For people like Gu Yuna, Chihiro Snow, and the others, they were at most at the advanced stage. Especially Gu Yuna, who had been stuck at the advanced stage for a long time and hadn't made any progress. The 9 secrets, a secret technique exclusive to humans, were too difficult for soul beasts to comprehend. Let me see what's the difference between the last part of the clear air scripture and the first part. After lamenting for a while, Lu Yuan placed his attention on the clear air scripture. As his fundamental cultivation method, the importance of the clear air scripture surpassed all other secret techniques and martial skills. After all, the clear air scripture was not only his fundamental cultivation method, but also only the soul power produced by the clear air scripture could refine the clear air god seed that contained the power of law. This was an indispensable item for him to become a god of law. Now that he had obtained the clear air scripture and successfully collected the entire clear air scripture, the power of the clear air scripture would definitely increase greatly. Then, the speed of refining the clear air god seed would definitely increase. This was definitely good news for Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan carefully looked at the clear air scripture in his mind with a look of surprise on his face. Compared to the first part, the second part was indeed much more advanced. It was simply not on the same level. So the second part actually cultivates the primordial spirit and spiritual power? Lu Yuan muttered to himself. The second part was equivalent to a comprehensive upgraded version of the first part. The first part cultivated true qi and spiritual power, while the second part directly cultivated spiritual power and primordial spirit. If the first part was still a martial arts method, then the second part was a true immortal cultivation method. Yes, the clear air scripture is a simplified version of the Taiching Immortal Sutra. The Taiching Immortal Sutra is one of the top immortal cultivation methods. This simplified clear air scripture is naturally an immortal cultivation method. In the beginning, my cultivation was too weak and had not reached the threshold of cultivation, so I cultivated the first half. But when I cultivated to the 9th level, I already had the qualifications to cultivate the second half. I also had the ability to cultivate the primordial spirit. At this time, the second half of the clear air scripture was really the most suitable. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and immediately understood everything. Looks like there are a lot of tasks for this seclusion. Not only do I have to increase my strength, gather the soul bones, condense the god armor, comprehend the clear air god seed, but I also have to cultivate the second part of the clear air scripture and condense the primordial spirit. I'm really busy, but there's no rush. I have plenty of time. Let's take it slow. Lu Yuan shook his head slightly and thought to himself. Obuchi, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly stop and shake your head from time to time? Are you sick? Right when Lu Yuan was immersed in his thoughts, Gu Yuna's pleasant voice came about. She raised her jade-like hand and gently touched Lu Yuan's forehead with a hint of confusion in her purple eyes. Ah, I'm fine, I just thought of a few things. Lu Yuan smiled and said. What is it that made you so absent-minded? Gu Yuna curiously looked at Lu Yuan. It's not anything important. Lu Yuan smiled and gently touched Gu Yuna's cheek. Now I'll teach you another secret art, do you want it? What is it? Gu Yuna asked. One of the 9 secrets, Lin. It's very powerful, do you want to learn it? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Of course, but I feel like I can't go deeper into the 9 secret. It's very difficult to reach a higher level. Gu Yuna frowned and softly said. This is normal because the 9 secrets are the ultimate arts of the human race. It's most suitable for humans to cultivate. Your original form is the Silver Dragon King, so it's naturally difficult for you to cultivate, unlike me. Even though I have the bloodline of the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King, I'm still human, so it's easier for me to cultivate. Lu Yuan gently said. Chapter 1151. Oh, so that's how it is. Gu Yuna nodded with a look of realization on her face. However, although you can't cultivate to the highest level, you can still gain a lot of benefits from cultivating the 9 esotericas. Especially the Secret of Lin, it's the best weapon to fight those of a higher level. Although you definitely can't step into the God Prohibition domain and kill those of a higher level, you can still gain a great advantage against those of the same level. Actually, your combat power hasn't increased by much. With the True Dragon Claw and the Secret of Swordsman, you can fight against the Azura God. However, that's not enough. The Secret of Lin can help you improve further. You have to know that there are 5 divine kings, dozens of first-tier gods, and hundreds of second-tier gods in the divine world. You can say that there's strength in numbers. However, we only have you and me. Therefore, we can't give up any chance to improve our strength. Lu Yuan said with a serious face. You're right. We still need to become stronger. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Gu Yuna nodded in agreement, and her eyes were filled with a strong sense of determination. Close your eyes, Lu Yuan said softly. Gu Yuna closed her eyes. Lu Yuan raised his right hand and pointed at Gu Yuna's forehead. He passed on the Secret of Lin that he had just obtained. The Secret of Lin was very profound. After Lu Yuan passed it on, Gu Yuna immediately frowned. After a while, Gu Yuna, who had completely digested the content, opened her eyes. It's so hard. Gu Yuna opened her big watery eyes and looked at Lu Yuan with a pitiful look. Hee, it's good that it's hard. Take your time to comprehend it. This time, I don't have any experience to pass on to you. I didn't even comprehend it myself. Lu Yuan laughed. He instantly understood Gu Yuna's plan. This girl wanted him to pass on his cultivation experience like he did in the past. After all, she was able to cultivate the Secret of Swordsman to a higher level because of Lu Yuan's experience. However, this time, Lu Yuan couldn't help her. He had just obtained the secret of Lin not long ago and hadn't even practiced it. How could he pass on his experience to her? Gu Yuna pursed her lips upon hearing Lu Yuan's words. It appeared that she really was going to have to rely on herself this time. Lu Yuan tapped Gu Yuna's pouty lips with an amused expression before continuing onward while holding onto her hand. As they walked, it did not take long for a massive dragon corpse to appear before the two of them. This dragon corpse was much larger than any of the dragon corpses they had encountered before. It was over 1,000 meters in size, and it radiated extremely dense energy fluctuations. The energy fluctuations contained a faint, solemn aura. Moreover, Lu Yuan could clearly feel a sense of intimacy coming from the dragon skeleton in front of him. It was a special feeling that was much more intimate than any of the previous dragon skeletons. Mountain Dragon King. Looking at the huge dragon skeleton in front of him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but speak softly, his dual pupils flashing. This was one of the targets he was looking for this time. The Golden Dragon tribe had the bloodlines of both the Golden Dragon and the Mountain Dragon King, so Lu Yuan naturally had an extremely close relationship with the Mountain Dragon King. Furthermore, the five-clawed Golden Dragon King bloodline aura emanating from Lu Yuan's body made the Mountain Dragon King's skeleton tremble in fear. After all, the five-clawed Golden Dragon King's bloodline was superior to that of the Dragon God, and it was the most powerful dragon bloodline in this world. All dragons could only bow before it, and the Mountain Dragon King was naturally no exception. Mountain Dragon King. Gu Yuna murmured with a hint of sadness in her voice. The Mountain Dragon King was one of the most powerful beings in the dragon tribe, and it was second only to the Golden Dragon among the 9 dragon kings. However, it had also perished in the battle of the Divine Realm. However, compared to the Golden Dragon, it was a little luckier as its dragon corpse had been preserved in perfect condition. Lu Yuan gently squeezed Gu Yuna's hand with a concerned look in his eyes. He knew that Gu Yuna had to have recalled some unhappy memories. I'm fine. Gu Yuna shook her head with a gentle expression, and her grip on Lu Yuan's hand tightened slightly. Even though the dragon tribe had fallen from grace, the opportunity to make a comeback was right in front of her. Lu Yuan could sense the pressure from her hand, and he said in a gentle voice, "You have me. I've always been here. The past is in the past, but the future of the dragon tribe is definitely bright. Relax, don't dwell on the past. What we should be looking forward to is the future." Alright. Gu Yuna nodded as a warm smile appeared on her face. Even Lu Yuan was entranced by her beauty. Moments later, Lu Yuan came to his senses, and he turned to the Mountain Dragon King's skeleton again as he said, don't you feel like the Mountain Dragon King's skeleton is more sentient, as if it were filled with life force? What do you mean? Gu Yuna's eyes widened slightly as a hint of speculation appeared on her face. Perhaps this Mountain Dragon King is in the same situation as the Water and Fire Dragon Kings, Lu Yuan replied with a warm smile. You're saying that its soul fragment still exists? The existence of a dragon's soul fragment was completely different from the existence of a dragon's soul. A dragon's soul was a new life form formed from the combination of the soul power and energy of a deceased dragon tribe member. However, a soul fragment was a broken soul, which meant that the soul fragment that belonged to the Mountain Dragon King still existed. At the very least, a portion of it still existed, and it hadn't undergone any changes with its energy. This was exactly the same as the situation with the Water and Fire Dragon Kings. It could slowly recover under the effects of divine power. That's exactly what I mean. Come out, Mountain Dragon King. Lu Yuan spoke in an indifferent voice as white light erupted from his hand, completely enshrouding the Mountain Dragon King's massive dragon corpse. Earthy yellow light converged on the dragon corpse, and a massive dragon projection appeared. It was none other than the Mountain Dragon King's soul fragment. Mountain Dragon King, you really aren't completely dead yet. Gu Yuna spoke with a hint of elation on her face. However, A sharp light then flashed through her purple eyes as she asked, "Then why didn't you respond at all when I came here?" "Silver Dragon King, I didn't swear allegiance to you, and I don't see any opportunity in you for the dragon tribe to rise to prominence. Even if I did respond to you, what would I have done?" The Mountain Dragon King spoke in an indifferent voice, and his boorish voice instantly rang out. As a member of the Golden Dragon King's bloodline, the Mountain Dragon King didn't have much respect for the Silver Dragon King. In reality, the Fire Dragon King and the Water Dragon King also didn't have much respect for Guyuna, as they were still loyal to the Dragon God. They had been born far earlier than the Golden Dragon King and the Silver Dragon King. Furthermore, the Mountain Dragon King had been at the pinnacle of the first-tier god level, second only to the Golden Dragon, who was a half-step god king among the 9 dragon kings. Chapter 1152. Guyuna's expression changed slightly upon hearing the Mountain Dragon King's words, but she then heaved a faint sigh. The Mountain Dragon King was right. If she were to fuse with the Golden Dragon King, there was no way that she would be able to revive the dragon race, even if she were to fuse with the Golden Dragon King to revive the Dragon God. The Dragon God had lost in the past, so the current Dragon God would only suffer an even worse loss. Back then, the 9 dragon kings and the other beastly gods had all perished. On top of that, the Golden Dragon King was sealed in the divine realm, so it was virtually impossible for her to fuse with the Golden Dragon King. It was understandable that the Mountain Dragon King didn't have high hopes for her. After all, they had experienced the battle of the divine realm, so they were more aware of just how powerful the divine realm was than anyone else. The Water and Fire Dragon Kings also didn't have high hopes for Guyuna. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Yuan had shown them a glimmer of hope, they would have most likely chosen to remain in the ice fire Yang well and wait for their deaths. The Mountain Dragon King didn't look at Guyuna. Instead, he turned to Lu Yuan with unbridled excitement in his eyes. Not only could it sense an intimate bloodline aura from Lu Yuan's body, it could also sense a burst of terrifying might that was even more powerful than that of the Dragon God. The reason why it came out so quickly was because it saw hope in Lu Yuan. The hope of the Dragon Clan rising again. "Sir, can you tell me the origin of your bloodline? I can sense an extremely intimate bloodline aura from your body. Your bloodline is very similar to that of the Golden Dragon race, but it's far superior. Even the Golden Dragon King, and even the Dragon God were far inferior to you. It's very difficult to imagine that someone like you could be born in our dragon race." The Mountain Dragon King spoke with a hint of respect in its voice. In contrast with the Water and Fire Dragon Kings, the Mountain Dragon King had a direct bloodline connection with Lu Yuan, so it was facing a lot more pressure than the Water and Fire Dragon Kings. Furthermore, Lu Yuan was far more powerful than when he had first entered the ice fire Yang well. At the time, he was only able to defeat a limit Douluo at most, but now, he was no less powerful than a first-tier god. "You think I'm a dragon? You don't think I'm human anymore?" Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Back then, the Water and Fire Dragon Kings still held some grudges against him because he was a human. They weren't completely loyal to him. The Dragon King of Water and Fire wanted to be loyal to his and Guyuna's child, a true dragon with his supreme bloodline and Guyuna's Silver Dragon King bloodline. However, this Mountain Dragon King seemed to be completely different. It had already regarded Lu Yuan as a member of the dragon tribe. "My lord, you must be joking. My bloodline senses tell me that you are the purest member of the Dragon Clan, and not a human who has obtained the Dragon Clan's bloodline. However, I don't know why you are still a human." The Mountain Dragon King shook its head in response. In the original timeline, even though Tang Wulin possessed the Golden Dragon King bloodline, he had only been acknowledged by the Mountain Dragon King after the 1,000 Days Dragon Burial, and had been gifted a torso bone. The Mountain Dragon King could see that his Golden Dragon King bloodline was completely foreign, so he could only be considered a half-dragon at most. However, Lu Yuan gave him a very different feeling. He had an extremely pure bloodline, and the Mountain Dragon King had determined that Lu Yuan was the purest member of the Dragon Clan. However, the only one who could sense that Lu Yuan was a pure dragon was the Mountain Dragon King. A faint smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face upon hearing the Mountain Dragon King's words. Even he didn't know what was going on, let alone the Mountain Dragon King. Theoretically speaking, he should be a complete dragon, but he just so happened to be a human. This could only be attributed to the system's miraculous nature. Lu Yuan shook his head in an indifferent manner and said, "I am indeed a pure dragon, but I'm also a human, so there's no conflict between the two. As for the origin of my bloodline, it does indeed originate from the Golden Dragon Clan." "That's impossible. How could the Golden Dragon Clan be so powerful? Even the Golden Dragon King's bloodline is far inferior to yours." The Mountain Dragon King immediately retorted as soon as Lu Yuan's voice trailed off. Aside from the Golden Dragon King, none of the other Golden Dragon tribe bloodlines were even more advanced than it, so how could it have given birth to a being like Lu Yuan? This didn't make any sense, and even atavism couldn't have happened in this manner. "My bloodline evolved, and I obtained a drop of blood from a five-clawed golden dragon's heart," Lu Yuan replied in an indifferent manner. "A five-clawed golden dragon? What kind of being is that?" The Mountain Dragon King asked in a curious manner. Just a drop of blood from a five-clawed golden dragon's heart was enough to elevate Lu Yuan's bloodline to that of the dragon gods. Just what kind of terrifying being was this? "You don't need to know what kind of being it is. All you need to know is that only five-clawed golden dragons can be referred to as true dragons," Lu Yuan replied in an indifferent manner. "What about us?" the Mountain Dragon King asked. "You guys can only be considered mixed-blood dragons at most." The same goes for the dragon god," Lu Yuan replied in a soft voice. Mountain Dragon King. If it weren't for the fact that the person standing before it was Lu Yuan, if it weren't for the fact that Lu Yuan's bloodline pressure was superior to that of the dragon gods, and if it weren't for the fact that it was only a soul fragment that couldn't defeat Lu Yuan, it would have definitely taught Lu Yuan a lesson. How dare he call the dragon god a mixed-blood dragon? "Obuchi!" Gu Yuna couldn't help but yell as she stomped on Lu Yuan's foot. Wasn't Lu Yuan implying that she was a mixed-blood dragon as well? "Can't I even tell you the truth?" Lu Yuan asked innocently. He was telling the truth. "No." Gu Yuna glowered at Lu Yuan with a vicious expression. Lu Yuan clenched his fists as he said in an indifferent voice, "All right, then I won't say anything else." The dragon god is very powerful, yay." Both Gu Yuna and the Mountain Dragon King faltered slightly upon hearing this. The Mountain Dragon King's lips twitched as he looked at Lu Yuan. "He's a little mischievous." "All right, that's enough." Gu Yuna rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan before turning to the Mountain Dragon King as she said, "We're actually here for your torso bone. Obuchi is missing a torso bone before he can attain a full soul bone. As you know, a full soul bone is a prerequisite for becoming a god, so, alright, I understand. It's just a soul bone, isn't it? It's my honor to be able to use it, Master. To be honest, I can see the future of the dragon tribe in you, Master. With your leadership, it won't be difficult for the dragon tribe to regain its former glory. Master, I have a presumptuous request. Would you be able to agree?" The Mountain Dragon King asked in a respectful manner. "If there's anything, just say it," Lu Yuan said softly. Chapter 1153. It's like this, Your Excellency. "I want to follow you," the Mountain Dragon King said. "Follow me." Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna glanced at each other with astonishment in their eyes. The Mountain Dragon King's words had caught them by surprise. "That's right. You are the hope of our dragon tribe, and I want to use my broken body to contribute to the dragon tribe. My divine core is still here, so I can offer it to you as a soul ring. I just don't know if you have a full ring yet," the Mountain Dragon King explained. "I don't have a full ring yet. I have twin martial souls," Lu Yuan replied in an indifferent voice. Twin martial souls? That's perfect. I can become your soul ring, and I'm sure my soul ring will help you progress further. The Mountain Dragon King's eyes lit up, and its voice reverberated throughout the entire valley. What do you think, Na-er? Lu Yuan turned to Gu Yuna. Agree to it. This is its final wish, and it's very powerful. Its soul ring will definitely be of great help to you. Obuchi, we have to seize every opportunity to become stronger. You said that yourself. Gu Yuna spoke in a meaningful voice. You're right, Na-er. Lu Yuan nodded in response before turning to the Mountain Dragon King. Alright, I agree. Actually, it's good that you're here. The Water Dragon King and the Flame Dragon King are both bored in my mind, so you'll be able to keep them company. They're following you, Your Excellency? That's a wise decision. The Mountain Dragon King was slightly surprised to hear Lu Yuan's words, but it then sighed with praise. It seemed that his former companions had all made the wisest choice. Great minds think alike. A faint smile appeared on the Mountain Dragon King's face. It was much better to be with these two than to be all alone. A faint smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face upon hearing this. He hadn't expected the Mountain Dragon King to do something like this. However, this was a good thing that had been delivered to his doorstep. In addition to the Golden Dragon Soul Ring that the system had rewarded him, his God-slaying Spear Martial Soul now had 3 soul rings. The God-slaying Spear's soul ring was very difficult to find. It had a minimum requirement for soul rings, and that was that it had to be a God-ranked soul ring before it could be added to the God-slaying Spear. This was why Lu Yuan had never taken the initiative to search for a soul ring for the God-slaying Spear. However, the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King's soul rings were already full. Even if the God-slaying Spear didn't have a full ring, it wouldn't hinder his ascension to godhood. In theory, as long as one had a martial soul paired with a soul ring, it would be enough to advance to the next level. This was the cultivation rule of twin martial souls. Becoming a god was actually the same. However, becoming a god here referred to creating one's own god position. Inheriting a god position was not allowed. For example, Lu Yuan's 8th Azura trial required him to have both twin martial souls to have a full set of soul rings. This also caused Lu Yuan to completely abandon the path of becoming a god. He had no choice but to wholeheartedly comprehend the clear air god seed to become a god. It could be said that the God-slaying Spear's special requirement was somewhat frustrating. The minimum requirement for a God-ranked soul ring was simply too difficult. However, considering the God-slaying Spear's status and its immense power, soul rings below the God-ranked were truly not worthy of it. With these thoughts in mind, Lu Yuan's gaze once again turned to Gu Yuna. Gu Yuna smiled and said, "Since the matter has been decided, let's not waste any more time. Let's begin as soon as possible." Okay. Lu Yuan nodded and glanced at the Mountain Dragon King. The Mountain Dragon King immediately understood and let out a resonant dragon's roar that echoed throughout the valley. Bursts of low dragon's roar also erupted throughout the entire valley, as if all of the dragon bones were responding to the Mountain Dragon King. Upon seeing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but release his 5-clawed Golden Dragon King bloodline without any reservation, and it instantly permeated throughout the entire valley. Both Gu Yuna and the Mountain Dragon King trembled in unison, and all of the dragon souls in the valley prostrated themselves in submission, as if they were paying homage to a paramount monarch. Lu Yuan was just releasing his own aura when his brows suddenly furrowed. Not far away from the Mountain Dragon King's dragon bones, an even more powerful aura was surging toward him, and it seemed to be resisting his bloodline. Not only was this aura more powerful than that of the Mountain Dragon King, it was even more powerful than that of Gu Yuna, who was standing before Lu Yuan. Interesting. You want to go against me? Do you have a death wish? Lu Yuan's brows furrowed slightly as his bloodline aura became even more powerful. Rich golden blood energy proliferated through the air, and terrifying aura quickly swept forth. The mountain dragon king's incomplete soul abruptly shuddered, and it showed signs of collapsing. At this point, the entire soul fragment had already prostrated itself onto the ground, trembling uncontrollably. Gu Yuna, who was standing beside Lu Yuan, was also trembling uncontrollably. She bit down on her lower lip, and her fists were clenched tightly. Her features were completely pale, and bursts of anguished cries rang out from within her bloodline. Her entire body was slowly bending over, and she was also on the verge of falling to her knees. As for all of the other dragon souls in the valley, all of them let loose low dragon's roars as they wholeheartedly submitted to Enlin. Obuchi. Gu Yuna spat out these two words with great difficulty. Lu Yuan placed a hand on Gu Yuna's shoulder, and all of the pressure she was feeling immediately dissipated. What's going on, Obuchi? Gu Yuna turned to Lu Yuan with a perplexed expression. She didn't understand why Lu Yuan would suddenly activate his bloodline so vigorously. Someone's trying to provoke me. Don't worry about it, I'm going to crush it no matter what. Lu Yuan said faintly. His might increased again and condensed towards the place where the aura came from. Roar! A loud dragon's roar erupted in the distance, and it was still resisting Lu Yuan's aura with all its might. Gu Yuna and the Mountain Dragon King shuddered in unison upon hearing this dragon's roar, and a hint of enlightenment flashed through their eyes. You stubborn fool! I am the ruler of all dragons in this world, and all dragons must prostrate themselves before me. Crush me! Lu Yuan roared as shimmering golden dragon scales appeared all over his body, and a burst of earth-shattering might erupted forth in an unbridled manner. All of a sudden, fierce winds howled in the air above the entire small world, and the projection of a five-clawed golden dragon king flew out from Lu Yuan's body. It threw its head back and let loose a long roar, and its terrifying dragon's roar rang out throughout the entire small world. Roar! In the face of this enormous pressure, a thunderous howl of anguish erupted in the distance, accompanied by a sense of submission. A burst of nine-colored light rose up from nearby, flashing as if it were worshipping Lu Yuan. The dragon god has been defeated. The Mountain Dragon King's eyes were trembling as it lay prostrated on the ground. Lu Yuan had just crushed the dragon god, and in its eyes, Lu Yuan was like a god. It knew that Lu Yuan's bloodline was superior to the dragon gods, but there was no comparison. However, this scene had completely stunned it. Dragon god! Gu Yuna's purple eyes blinked. This was the first time she had seen the paramount dragon god being completely crushed, and she was completely at a loss. Even though the dragon god had lost the battle of the divine realm, it wasn't because the dragon god wasn't powerful enough. Instead, it was because the dragon god was outnumbered. However, the dragon god had been completely defeated in a contest of bloodline power, and it had even publicly declared its submission. Even she was at a loss for what to do upon seeing this. Looks like you know your place. Lu Yuan gradually withdrew his aura at the sight of the shimmering nine-colored light, and he patted Gu Yuna on the shoulder as he said, "Nah, go and absorb the dragon god's heart and soul. It should be fine now." In the Dragon Valley, the only thing that could suppress the Mountain Dragon King and Gu Yuna was the final wisp of the dragon god's soul. Even though it was only a wisp of the dragon god's soul, it still possessed the might of the dragon god. Furthermore, the dragon god's heart was imbued with boundless energy, and it would definitely be extremely beneficial to Gu Yuna. You don't want it? Gu Yuna turned to Lu Yuan with a stunned expression. The dragon god's heart contained the position of the dragon god, and it was a top-rate superdivinity tool. The dragon's soul contained boundless energy, and even if she were to absorb it, her powers would be enhanced significantly. It wasn't that she hadn't been tempted in the past, but she hadn't been able to freely control the dragon god's heart. After all, the dragon god's heart belonged to the dragon god, and only the dragon god could perfectly control it. However, Lu Yuan had used his bloodline power to suppress it, so it would be a lot easier for him to refine it. Lu Yuan waved a hand in a nonchalant manner and said, I don't want it. Besides, the dragon god's heart isn't very useful to me, so you can go ahead. He had the Mountain Dragon King and Golden Dragon King soul rings, and if he were to absorb them, his soul power would most likely be able to ascend straight to the spirit god realm. If he were to make too much progress at once, it wouldn't be a good thing. As for super divinity tools, he already had two, the Azura Holy Sword and the most powerful super divinity tool, the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear. Even if he were to be given the Dragon God's heart, he wouldn't be able to use it. As for the Dragon God's position, how did it compare to the Divine Law Seat? There was simply too much of a disparity between the two. Furthermore, the Dragon God's heart would be extremely useful in Gu Yuna's hands. Obuchi! Gu Yuna called out in a gentle voice, and a peculiar light flashed through her eyes. Lu Yuan waved a hand with a faint smile and said, All right, don't be so emotional. Go on, I'm about to begin as well. All right. Gu Yuna nodded and gave Lu Yuan a quick peck on the lip. She then sped toward the nine-colored light not far away. Lu Yuan took a glance at Gu Yuna's departing figure before withdrawing his gaze and turning to the Mountain Dragon King. Let's begin, but I don't need you to sacrifice yourself. I have a set of soul spirit techniques, so just follow my instructions, Lu Yuan said in an indifferent voice. Yes, Your Excellency. The Mountain Dragon King became even more respectful, and there was even a hint of humility in its expression. Lu Yuan had already completely subdued this man who was able to repress even the dragon god's aura. Lu Yuan sat down with his legs crossed, and a magic formation over a kilometer in size enshrouded Lu Yuan and the Mountain Dragon King within. Lu Yuan pointed a finger forward, and golden light materialized to form a contract before disappearing into his and the Mountain Dragon King's glabella at the same time. Brilliant golden light immediately erupted, and a dazzling yellow crystal flew out of the Mountain Dragon King's dragon bones, within which were imbued with extremely rich energy fluctuations. That's the Mountain Dragon King's divine core. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up, and he pointed a finger forward, upon which the Mountain Dragon King's soul core suddenly began to glow with dazzling yellow light. The light then converged to form a massive golden soul ring. This golden soul ring wasn't as dazzling as a true golden soul ring. Instead, it was more of an earthy yellow color, and even though it was a little dull, it exuded an indescribable sense of density and steadiness. Clear Qi Scripture, Nascent Soul Cultivation Method. Lu Yuan began to circulate his soul power according to the cultivation method in the second half of the Clear Qi Scripture. The massive soul ring shone directly above Lu Yuan's head, and the god-slaying spear appeared on its own. The inky black god-slaying spear rested on Lu Yuan's lap, and it exuded an extremely terrifying aura of slaughter and malice. The Mountain Dragon King's soul ring's energy was quickly injected into Lu Yuan's body, and his spiritual power was also circulating at a frenzy between his glabella as he condensed the final nascent soul golden core. Once the nascent soul golden core was condensed, Lu Yuan would be able to completely break through the bottleneck and become a limit Douluo. Lu Yuan split his attention between absorbing the soul ring's energy and circulating the second half of the Clear Qi Scripture to transform his soul power, and at the same time, he was controlling his spiritual power to condense the nascent soul golden core. Both of them proceeded smoothly and methodically. Perhaps Lu Yuan was the only person in the world who could multitask to such perfection. While Lu Yuan closed his eyes, the Mountain Dragon King, who had transformed into his spirit soul, was also controlling the rate at which the soul ring's energy was being injected into it to help Lu Yuan better absorb the soul ring's energy. Days like this went on for an entire month. The absorption of the soul ring didn't take very long, and the Mountain Dragon King's soul ring's energy had already been completely absorbed. All of this energy was temporarily accumulating, waiting for the moment when Lu Yuan completely condensed the nascent soul golden core. My soul power has completely transformed into magic power, so it's time for the nascent soul golden core to be completely condensed. As he sensed the changes in his body, Lu Yuan's heart stirred, and his nascent soul golden core, which was already close to being completely condensed, suddenly sped up. Boundless spiritual power surged into his nascent soul golden core, and it became increasingly round and resplendent. Finally, at a certain point, his nascent soul golden core became completely round and translucent. At the same time, Lu Yuan's blood essence golden core, soul power golden core, and nascent soul golden core all shuddered at the same time, and it was as if some kind of barrier had been opened. The accumulated energy of the Mountain Dragon King's soul ring immediately began to surge violently within his body. Lu Yuan's soul power began to rapidly increase, and it only took a short while for him to break through the bottleneck of the limit Douluo level. Mid-limit Douluo, late limit Douluo, and then pinnacle limit Douluo. After about a dozen minutes, the barrier to the demigod realm was also opened, and Lu Yuan directly entered the demigod realm. Demigod, it's about time to suppress it. Lu Yuan's heart stirred, and he began to exert a powerful suppression. However, the Mountain Dragon King's soul power was simply too powerful, and even though Lu Yuan was suppressing it, its soul power was still increasing at a frenzied rate. Lu Yuan's heart stirred, and a portion of the energy within his body was diverted into the soul rings of his five-clawed Golden Dragon King martial soul. A dragon's roar shook the heavens, and his five-clawed Golden Dragon King martial soul also appeared. A large portion of the energy within his body was diverted into the first 6 soul rings of his martial soul. Chapter 1154. As a reward from the system, Lu Yuan's twin martial souls had a special characteristic that other twin martial souls didn't have. They could be used at the same time. In fact, Lu Yuan's use of the god-slaying spear proved this point. After all, his first martial soul was in a state of possession when he used the god-slaying spear. After the energy from his body was injected into the first 6 soul rings of the five-clawed Golden Dragon King, the pressure in his body was greatly reduced. The first 6 soul rings of the five-clawed Golden Dragon King also began to slowly increase in age. Lu Yuan divided his attention again. On one hand, he controlled the growth of his soul power, and on the other, he paid attention to the age of his soul rings. It had to be said that the Mountain Dragon King's soul rings were the most abundant among all the soul rings that Lu Yuan had obtained. Whether it was the Fire Dragon King's soul rings or the Water Dragon King's soul rings, they were still slightly inferior. After all, the Fire Dragon King and the Water Dragon King were only first-rank gods when they were alive, while the Mountain Dragon King was at the peak of the first-rank god. There was still a gap between them. There's a lot less energy. It's a lot easier to suppress. Lu Yuan exhaled lightly. The pressure in his body slowly increased, and the growth of his soul power began to slow down. Another 2 hours passed, and Lu Yuan finally stabilized his aura. Compared to before, Lu Yuan's aura was much more condensed and terrifying. Before absorbing the soul ring, Lu Yuan had abandoned the god-slaying spear. Although his strength was comparable to a peak first-rank deity, his aura was only comparable to a first-rank deity's. But now, Lu Yuan's aura was no less than that of a first-rank god. He could be considered a genuine first-rank god. Even the 6-winged angel god's aura was comparable to Lu Yuan's. In a fight, no first-rank god other than the sea god would be a match for him. Of course, this also referred to the situation when the god-slaying spear was removed. Aside from the boost in his aura, the first 6 soul rings of the five-clawed Golden Dragon King had also received significant enhancements from the Mountain Dragon King soul rings. Originally, they were all over 800,000 years old, close to 900,000 years old. Now, they had completely broken through the 900,000-year bottleneck, and each of their soul rings had reached 900,000 years of age. These were the enhancements brought about by the Mountain Dragon King soul rings. Each of these 6 soul rings was around 950,000 years old, and even though the enhancements didn't appear to be significant, the more energy one needed to upgrade one's soul rings, the more energy one would need to expend to do so. This required even more energy than his previous 6 soul rings, which were all 500,000-year soul rings. Peak of the demigod realm. Lu Yuan suddenly opened his eyes, and his sharp gaze shot out. Even though he had used up a portion of his soul power, and was doing his best to suppress it, the Mountain Dragon King's soul power had still raised his soul power to the pinnacle of the demigod stage. In a situation where he didn't need to refine his divine body, the divine-grade soul ring began to display its terrifying soul power enhancement. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Yuan had forcibly suppressed and converted his clear chi scripture, which cultivated magic power of extremely high quality, the Mountain Dragon King's soul ring would have most likely pushed Lu Yuan straight to the divine official stage. Even so, Lu Yuan was still at the pinnacle of the demigod realm, and he was only one step away from the semi-divinity stage. This was the fearsome power of a first-grade soul ring. One had to realize that Neptunia's soul ring had only just reached the divine official stage, and it had already boosted Bibidan's soul power from a limit Douluo to the semi-divinity stage, let alone a first-grade soul ring like the Mountain Dragon King. It was only natural for such enhancements to occur. Peak of the demigod realm really is different. I'm a lot stronger than before. Lu Yuan clenched his fists, and he could clearly sense that his power had increased significantly compared to when he was only at the half-step limit Douluo stage. I've only just become more powerful, so I can't absorb any more soul rings. If I make too much of a breakthrough, it'll inevitably affect my foundation. I should take a break to hone my skills and familiarize myself with my new power before I absorb the Golden Dragon soul ring. Lu Yuan muttered to himself as he turned to the Mountain Dragon King, who had already become his soul spirit. Due to the special nature of the god-slaying spear, even though the Mountain Dragon King was a divine-grade soul spirit, it could only provide Lu Yuan with a single soul ring. After successfully becoming a soul spirit, the Mountain Dragon King's soul body had completely solidified, and it had benefited greatly from Lu Yuan through the use of soul spirit technique. Mountain Dragon King, give me your torso bone as well. I don't want to increase my power anymore. I want to take care of the divine equipment first, Lu Yuan said in an indifferent voice. Yes, master. The Mountain Dragon King replied in a respectful manner, and a streak of yellow light flew out of its dragon bone before stopping in front of Lu Yuan to reveal its true form. This was an extremely complete and transparent torso bone. There were countless cross-sections throughout its body, and as long as there was even a hint of sunlight, it would shine with extremely dazzling light. Lu Yuan could clearly sense the powerful energy fluctuations imbued within the soul bone. The quality of this soul bone far exceeded that of any of the soul bones he currently possessed. Even though there were many other soul bones that belonged to a first-tier god just like this one, this soul bone was of the highest quality at the moment. Of course, this was only the case for now. Lu Yuan's external soul bones would all surpass this one in the future, especially his Aquafire Dragon King wings, which were already very close in quality to this Mountain Dragon King torso bone. Lu Yuan estimated that after absorbing the Golden Dragon soul ring, the Aquafire Dragon King wings would be able to surpass the Mountain Dragon King torso bone. He extended his right hand to grasp the Mountain Dragon King torso bone, and he was immediately struck by an extremely heavy weight weighing down on his hand. Among the 9 great Dragon Kings, the Mountain Dragon King had the heaviest body. The Mountain Dragon King's torso bone came from it, so it was also astonishingly dense. However, to Lu Yuan, this weight was nothing. His strength had already reached an unfathomable level, and it definitely weighed in at least tens of millions of kilograms. After absorbing the soul ring, his strength had increased once again. Lu Yuan carefully inspected the Mountain Dragon King torso bone, and all of a sudden, the bone transformed into a streak of light that surged directly into Lu Yuan's body. Lu Yuan was immediately struck by a sense of heaviness and solidity as a steady stream of power flowed into his body from the earth. He felt as if all of the mountains and rivers in the world were calling out to him. Chapter 1155. The earth beneath his feet was extremely intimate with him, and he felt as if he had fused as one with the entire Dragon Valley, allowing him to sense every single blade of grass and tree within the valley. All of the dragon skeletons within the Dragon Valley also seemed to have become more intimate with him. Aside from their initial reverence and submission, there was also an aura of reverence and reliance. How interesting! Is this the energy imbued by the Mountain Dragon King Torso Bone? Compared to the energy gathered by the wings of the Water and Fire Dragon King, the energy imbued by this Mountain Dragon King Torso Bone is much more direct. Just by standing on the ground, one has an endless source of energy. This is what it means to be truly invincible on the ground. Being able to stand on the ground and draw energy from the earth to replenish oneself was what it meant to be truly invincible on the ground. Tang Chen's clear sky hammer was unable to reap any benefits from the earth. However, it's normal for it to be able to draw energy from the earth. After all of these mountains and continents were originally formed from the bodies of the Mountain Dragon Kings, which is why all of the Mountain Dragon Kings are crowned as kings upon reaching adulthood. Being crowned king isn't a representation of one's power. Instead, it's a recognition of one's achievements. In terms of bloodlines, the leader of the 9 great Dragon Kings, the Golden Dragon King, is definitely superior to the Mountain Dragon King, let alone the Golden Dragon bloodline and the Silver Dragon bloodline. However, only the Mountain Dragon King's bloodline can claim the throne in every generation. For example, Long Yu's martial soul is the Mountain Dragon King, but in terms of power, his martial soul may not be as powerful as Chior's Golden Dragon, but he's still crowned king. All of the pure-blooded Mountain Dragon martial souls are referred to as Mountain Dragon Kings. However, there's only one true first-generation Mountain Dragon King in front of me. Lu Yuan muttered to himself as he scanned the entire Dragon Valley with his mind. He was surprised to find that there was an extremely terrifying dragon power hidden in the Dragon Valley. It had already penetrated deep into the Dragon Valley. If this dragon power were to spread out, it would probably cause the entire continent to change and give birth to countless new dragons. Could it be that Nar hasn't detected this burst of power? If she were to use this power, it would most likely be no less effective than the Dragon God's heart. In fact, it might even contain more energy than the Dragon God's heart. If the heart of the Dragon God contained the purest energy and final inheritance of the Dragon God, then the dragon power gathered in this earth was the accumulation of the countless dragons that had perished in the Dragon Valley during the War of Gods over countless years. The abundance and terror of this energy was beyond imagination. If there was anything bad about it, it would be that it was mixed and not pure enough. After all, aside from the pure-blooded giant dragons in the Dragon Tomb, there were also countless wyverns and mixed-blood dragons in the Dragon Valley outside. As such, there was no way that the dragon power in the mix would be so pure. Perhaps this is the reason why Na-Er didn't take a liking to it. With Na-Er's prideful personality and her stubbornness towards her bloodline, she probably wouldn't be interested in such impure energy. A wry smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face as he speculated. Perhaps it wasn't that Gu Yuna hadn't noticed this, but rather, she simply didn't take a liking to it. After all dragons cared about their bloodlines the most, and those with pure bloodlines would always look down on those with impure bloodlines. Most importantly, Gu Yuna was already a godly monarch, so she didn't need pure energy. Normal energy wouldn't be able to help her improve, so only the power of the Dragon God within the Dragon God's heart would be able to help her. This meant that what Gu Yuna needed was quality, not pure quantity. Lu Yuan pondered this for a moment, and he instantly figured out what Gu Yuna was thinking. Nar can't use it, but perhaps I can. I definitely won't be able to use it to enhance my soul power, but if I can use it to refine a set of divine equipment, then this dragon power would be very useful. Lu Yuan heaved a faint sigh as a thought occurred to him. His soul power quickly circulated through his body, and the mountain dragon king torso bone was quickly refined. Bursts of powerful energy began to emanate from within, quickly diffusing into all of Lu Yuan's limbs and bones, thereby enhancing his constitution. The clear energy scripture was quickly activated, and clear energy magic power cleansed the mountain dragon king torso bone, branding it with Lu Yuan's aura, thereby completely transforming it into something that belonged to Lu Yuan. As soon as the mountain dragon king torso bone returned to its original position, a special connection abruptly erupted, and dazzling light began to appear on all of Lu Yuan's body at the same time. Lu Yuan was instantly enshrouded within a set of dazzling, five-colored divine equipment. His right arm was of a dazzling golden color, his left arm was of an ocean blue color, his left leg was of a pure black color, and his chest was of a dazzling golden color. He wore a dark golden helmet on his head, and a pair of black and dark golden gloves on his hands. On his back, a pair of icy blue and crimson wings flapped in the wind, and boundless fire element and water element energy flowed into Lu Yuan's body in an unending stream. I've become a lot more powerful, and this set of divine equipment is finally complete. But it's so ugly. Lu Yuan smacked his lips. As someone who was obsessed with appearances, he couldn't help but turn his nose up at this messy set of divine equipment. I still have to refine it seriously, but first, I have to upgrade my skull and these external soul bones to grade 1 divine soul bones. As for my left arm bone, I wonder if I can forcibly evolve it if I inject an extremely powerful amount of energy into it. If I add in my clear energy divine power, it should be able to. After all, the power of laws is extremely profound, so it shouldn't be too difficult to break through the restrictions of soul bones. Lu Yuan thought to himself as he started to think about the dragon power that he had just absorbed. Even though he wouldn't use it to increase his soul power, it would definitely make the best use of it to upgrade his soul bones. I'm not in a hurry to upgrade the other soul bones. Let's find a few skulls to feed Tao Tai's skull first. Lu Yuan clapped his hands and stood up. He wandered around and began to search for soul bones. After finding a few suitable soul bones and placing them in his star ring for Hulina and the others, Lu Yuan began to search for the skulls he needed. Among the 9 pure-blooded dragon clans, the Spatial Dragon King clan was the most proficient in spiritual power. Although there were no Spatial Dragon King skeletons in the Dragon Valley, there were still pure-blooded Spatial Giant Dragon skeletons. In addition to the other dragon skeletons, Lu Yuan had a dozen or so skulls in his hands. It wasn't that he didn't have any more, but this was already enough. Among them, he had the most Spatial Giant Dragon skeletons, with a total of 5. After all, Spatial Giant Dragons usually produced skulls, so it wasn't difficult to find them. He also had light, darkness, water, fire, wind, and other dragon skeletons. Furthermore, Lu Yuan also found a lot of divine rank external soul bones. Although external soul bones were rare, there were so many dragons present, and they were all divine rank ones, so it wasn't difficult to find some. Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't leave them out. He also kept a few of them. External soul bones were rare treasures, and Hulina and the others could use them. Chapter 1156. Most of the external soul bones produced by the dragon race were dragon claws and wings. Originally, Lu Yuan had planned to gather both feet as well. After all, with palms, the soles of his feet could not be placed down. Furthermore, if he did that, his entire body would be filled with soul bones. However, reality proved that he had thought too much. There were indeed some external soul bones, but none of them were feet. Lu Yuan chose a wind dragon wing and absorbed it. The wind dragon was a very special dragon race. The probability of them dropping external soul bones was much higher than other dragon races. Once they dropped external soul bones, they were basically dragon wings. Among the external soul bones that Lu Yuan obtained, there were 3 pairs of dragon wings. They were all produced by the Wind Dragon. He was planning to give them to Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, and Ning Rongrong. After absorbing the Wind Dragon wing, he had 3 pairs of dragon wings on his back. They were water, fire, and wind respectively. The 3 pairs of dragon wings, crimson red, ice blue, and light green, flapped behind Lu Yuan and emitted an indescribable aura. Although the golden dragon also had dragon wings, they were produced by the martial soul and not external soul bones. When he was condensing his divine equipment, he only had 2 pairs of dragon wings on his back. 4 pairs of dragon wings weren't very nice, but 6 pairs were much nicer. With 3 pairs of dragon wings on his back, Lu Yuan only felt that his body was as light as a feather. With the Wind Dragon wing, Lu Yuan only felt that his speed was much faster. The wind attribute was the best at speed. Apart from the spatial attribute, the wind attribute was the fastest. The Wind Dragon wing gave Lu Yuan a significant increase in speed. This external soul bone is worth absorbing. Feeling the power of the wind element coming from the dragon wings on his back, Lu Yuan sighed softly. His double pupils flickered with radiance. Next, I can absorb these soul bones to evolve my skull. 2 silver skulls appeared in his hand. Lu Yuan muttered to himself with some fluctuations in his eyes. More than 10 skulls were enough to upgrade his Tao Tai's skull to an extremely terrifying level. Buzz! Just as Lu Yuan sank into his thoughts, a rumble rang out. The 9-colored light nearby immediately dispersed, and the presence of a God King appeared, causing him to squint slightly. Na-Er's aura has become a lot stronger. It seems like she has benefited a lot, Lu Yuan said softly as a warm smile appeared on his face. The more benefits Gu Yuna received, the happier he was. After all, they were husband and wife, and there was no distinction between them. Silver light flashed, and the strong aura quickly attacked, pressing in Lu Yuan's direction. Lu Yuan curled his lips. With a wave of his right hand, the god-slaying spear appeared. A terrifying and pure murderous aura completely destroyed that aura. Endless ferocious aura spread out and pressed forward. Obuchi quickly put it away. A clear and melodious voice sounded in Lu Yuan's ears, and her beautiful figure suddenly appeared in front of Lu Yuan's eyes. Gu Yuna's purple eyes fluttered as she looked at the god-slaying spear that was pointed at her. Her beautiful face was filled with fear. She didn't know why, but when the spear pointed at her, she panicked. She had a strong sense of death. God-slaying spear, this name is not wrong. Gu Yuna's beautiful face changed as she thought to herself. Why? Are you afraid? Hearing Gu Yuna, Lu Yuan moved the god-slaying spear's tip away and stood in front of him with a faint smile on his face. I'm not afraid, but I'm a little panicked. This spear is too fierce. Gu Yuna shook her head and said softly. You actually pointed it at me. Gu Yuna pouted, looking at Lu Yuan with eyes full of resentment. Who asked you to provoke me? Blame me. Lu Yuan twitched his lips. This woman wanted to use her God King realm aura to suppress him, and she blamed him for taking out the god-slaying spear? However, even though he said that, he still quietly dispersed the god-slaying spear in his hand. Without the god-slaying spear, Gu Yuna felt a lot more relaxed. She took 2 steps forward and threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms. She used her fists to gently punch Lu Yuan's chest. A gentle smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face as he gently wrapped an arm around Gu Yuna's slender body. His right hand stroked her silky, crystal-like silver hair. Nar, looking at your aura just now, you seem to have gained a lot of benefits, Lu Yuan said with a smile as he stroked Gu Yuna's long hair. Indeed, I have gained a lot of benefits. I have completely controlled the dragon god's heart. Moreover, after absorbing the power of the dragon god's soul, my strength has increased by quite a bit. Gu Yuna said softly with a bright smile on her beautiful face. Is that so? That's not bad. Lu Yuan's right hand paused and moved down slightly, holding Gu Yuna's delicate waist. He gently rested his chin on Gu Yuna's forehead and said softly, "It is indeed not bad. Also, look." Gu Yuna raised her head slightly and raised a hand in front of Lu Yuan. Within her hand was a rhombus-shaped golden crystal that was radiating dazzling light. The power of the Golden Dragon? No, this is the power of the Golden Dragon King. That's right, you must have extracted the power of the Golden Dragon King from the Dragon God's soul. Lu Yuan couldn't help but exclaim as he sensed the power within the rhombus-shaped golden crystal. Hee hee, you really are as smart as ever. Gu Yuna smiled and didn't offer any retort. Didn't I tell you to absorb it yourself? Why did you leave it for me? Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. That's none of your business. I like it, so I'm going to leave it for you. Besides, I can't use the power of the Golden Dragon King, Gu Yuna said as she pouted slightly. A faint smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face. This little girl was trying to trick him again. How could she not use the power of the Golden Dragon King? You! Lu Yuan heaved a faint sigh before planting a kiss on her forehead. Hurry up and take it, Gu Yuna urged. All right. Lu Yuan accepted the golden crystal. He was going to refine a set of divine equipment, and this energy could be used to combine all of the pieces of his divine equipment. The power of the Golden Dragon King was extremely pure, so it could be used as a finishing touch. After stowing away the Golden Dragon King's energy crystal, Lu Yuan gently stroked Gu Yuna's cheek, and he planted a kiss on her lips. The flow of time in the Dragon Valley small world was different from that in the outside world. Perhaps only 2 days had passed in the outside world, but Lu Yuan had already been in the Dragon Valley for over a month, and he was already very eager for more. Gu Yuna closed her eyes slightly at the sight of Lu Yuan's kiss, and the two of them began to kiss in an intimate manner. Lu Yuan was very engrossed in his kiss, and Gu Yuna's response was also very passionate. The two of them kissed in silence, and faint 9-colored light rose up around them. As the 9-colored light rose up, all of the dragon skeletons in the dragon tomb began to radiate unique specks of light. Some of them were yellow, some of them were red, some of them were blue, and some of them were green. Countless specks of light drifted toward Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna, transforming into boundless 9-colored auspicious clouds that enshrouded the two of them. Lu Yuan was struck by a sense of warmth, and both his divine body and spiritual power had been enhanced at the same time. What's this? Lu Yuan suddenly stopped, and a hint of astonishment and incredulity appeared in his eyes. This is the blessing of the Dragon Clan. Gu Yuna's eyes also faltered slightly, and a hint of elation appeared in her eyes. Their lips were still connected, but their eyes met, and they already knew what the other party wanted to say. Is this the blessing of the Dragon Clan? Lu Yuan's voice traveled directly into Gu Yuna's mind. That's right, it's our blessing. A hint of a smile appeared in Gu Yuna's purple eyes. She was very happy that their love had been blessed by all of the dragons in the dragon tomb. In a way, these dragon tribe members were her true family. Lu Yuan's heart also stirred slightly, and a hint of elation welled up in his heart. He also felt a greater sense of acknowledgement toward the dragons in the dragon tomb. Now, he was even more eager to resurrect all of the dragons that had fallen a long time ago after he became a god. If this was Gu Yuna's request in the past, then it was more of his own thoughts now. These dragons really were very adorable. Lu Yuan transmitted his voice to her. What is it? Gu Yuna's purple eyes flashed slightly. Will you marry me? Let them bear witness. Lu Yuan's voice sounded in Gu Yuna's mind. For some reason, he was suddenly struck by this urge. Sure. Gu Yuna faltered slightly before replying with a flash of purple light in her eyes. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up, and he became even more engrossed in kissing Gu Yuna. Gu Yuna embraced Lu Yuan in an even more passionate manner. Another 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna bowed to heaven and earth in front of the dragon souls in the dragon tomb and the mountain dragon king, water dragon king, and fire dragon king as witnesses. Even though there weren't as many guests as there had been in the past, in Gu Yuna's eyes, this was the best wedding ever. In fact, it was far better than the wedding that Lu Yuan had once promised her. She didn't care who the guests were as she didn't know any of them. She also didn't care if the wedding would shock the entire continent as there weren't many people on the entire continent that she cared about. All that mattered to her was this Dragon Valley. She was very pleased with her wedding with Lu Yuan in the Dragon Valley. In fact, compared to the weddings of Bibidon and the others, she felt like her wedding was more unique and unique. This was a wedding that was unique to her, and it couldn't be replicated. Lu Yuan was naturally ecstatic at the sight of Gu Yuna's smile. He had only thought of this wedding on a whim, and he didn't think that Gu Yuna would actually prefer this type of wedding. He had initially wanted to give Gu Yuna the grandest and most lavish wedding, but he didn't think that Gu Yuna would be looking forward to something like that. However, the blessings of the dragon race had allowed him and Gu Yuna to have the most perfect wedding. As a newlywed, Lu Yuan naturally couldn't focus on his cultivation. As such, he only occasionally devoured the skulls that he had obtained and absorbed the enormous dragon power within the Dragon Valley to upgrade his external soul bone. Perhaps it was due to the fact that the left arm bone that had been fused with the Titan giant ape left arm bone and Neptunia left arm bone had developed some peculiar properties. Perhaps it was due to the fact that Lu Yuan had already infused it with his enormous dragon power and divine power, and it really did forcibly evolve to become a Grade 1 divine bone. Lu Yuan couldn't help but be elated by this development. The evolution of the left arm bone meant that Lu Yuan's final shortcoming had been completely fixed, and it also meant that once he completed the new set of divine armor, there wouldn't be any weaknesses. Aside from that, he spent most of his remaining time with Gu Yuna. They were newlyweds, so they had to spend some time together. Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna also left the Dragon Tomb, and they explored the entire small world within the Dragon Valley during the past 2 months. The Dragon Valley was only a small world, but it was significantly larger than the Great Star Doe Forest, and there were treasures all over the place. Aside from dragon souls, there were also all types of rare and precious medicines. Lu Yuan also plucked some of these medicines. After all, as a pill refiner, he had no resistance to these types of rare and precious medicines. Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna walked hand in hand through the Dragon Tomb, and they finally returned to this place. 2 months had passed, and Gu Yuna had become even more beautiful. Of course, this was largely due to Lu Yuan's attentive care. The Fire Dragon King, Water Dragon King, Mountain Dragon King, and Titan Giant Ape Spirits were all waiting in the Dragon Tomb, and all of them cast resentful looks at Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna upon their return. Lu Yuan and Gu Yuna naturally weren't going to bring these light bulbs with them on their honeymoon, so he left all of them behind. Soul spirits and soul masters couldn't be too far apart from one another, but that didn't apply to them. Lu Yuan and all of them had reached a certain level of power, so they were able to keep very far apart from one another. At the very least, as long as Lu Yuan didn't leave the Dragon Valley, they would be fine. The Water Dragon King, Fire Dragon King, and Mountain Dragon King were all God-grade soul spirits, and even the Titan Giant Ape Spirits were over 100 meters tall, and its aura was extremely powerful. Soul spirits and soul rings were a single entity, and as the soul ring aged, the soul spirit would also become more powerful. Currently, its Titan soul ring was already at 950,000 years old, and the Titan Giant Ape Spirits had naturally benefited greatly from it. On top of that, it had been illuminated by clear aura divine power for 8 years, and the enhancements it had received were unimaginable. In terms of quality, it was no less than the average God-grade soul spirit, so even though it was far away from Lu Yuan, nothing would happen to it. It was exactly because of this that Lu Yuan had left all of them behind to wait for them to come back. However, with the 4 of them as companions, they wouldn't be lonely. Lu Yuan completely ignored the resentful looks that all of the soul spirits were giving him, and before they had a chance to say anything, he stowed all of them away into his sea of consciousness. "They're so pitiful to have a master like you." Gu Yuna covered her mouth as she chuckled, and her purple eyes curved into crescents. "How is that pitiful? They're very fortunate to have me as their master. Once we defeat the divine realm, I'll bestow upon each of them a godly position." Lu Yuan pursed his lips. They were extremely fortunate to have him as their master. "Indeed. They're willing to follow us, so we can't mistreat them," Gu Yuna said with a serious smile. "You're right." Lu Yuan nodded in agreement. Chapter 1157. The Titan giant ape and the others were willing to sacrifice themselves to follow him, so he naturally wouldn't mistreat them. Setting aside everything else, all of their soul rings had been immensely helpful to Lu Yuan. Without the assistance of their soul rings, would Lu Yuan have been able to reach his current level? Would he have been able to contend with a first-tier god as a demigod? That was impossible. Lu Yuan's aptitude was indeed exceptional, but it was all thanks to their soul rings. As such, he felt very indebted to these soul spirits who had followed him. They didn't need anything else, but if he and Gu Yuna really did defeat the divine realm in the future, then they would be granted a godhood, so that would be his repayment. As such, he would reward anyone who was willing to follow him. "Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. We've already returned, and you've wasted 2 months. Go and do what you need to do," Gu Yuna said with a faint smile as she looked at Lu Yuan. "Wasted 2 months? How can spending time with you be considered a waste of time? But you're right, it really is time to get down to business." Lu Yuan's eyes flashed slightly, and he gently planted a kiss on Gu Yuna's lips before finding a clean spot to sit down with his legs crossed. A warm smile appeared on Gu Yuna's face as she looked at Lu Yuan with a hint of affection in her eyes. Lu Yuan waved a hand through the air, and 2 streaks of golden light fell into his hands amid a flash of light. One of them was only half the size of his palm, and it was completely transparent and shimmering with golden light. It was a diamond-shaped golden crystal, and it was none other than the Golden Dragon King crystal that Gu Yuna had given him. The other streak of light was a golden bead that was around the size of a washbasin. It was exuding a rich fragrance, and the bead was smooth and translucent, exuding a faint dragon's might. This bead was naturally the dragon bead that had once resided in Neptunia's head. In the original novel, the deep-sea demonic whale king's whale bead could be transformed into the sea god's heart, so this Neptunia bead was naturally even more useful. Lu Yuan had kept it this entire time so that he could use it to condense a set of godly equipment. His divine armor was formed by the Fire and Water Dragon King's wings and Golden Dragon battle armor, which were connected to all of his soul bones, so its power was naturally extraordinary. However, there was still a flaw, and that was that every single soul bone was unique and had its own special characteristic. Because they were basically all dragon soul bones, there was no resistance between them, and they wouldn't cause any discomfort to the user. However, it wasn't made from the same type of soul bone. It wasn't like Chihiro Snow's angelic armor, which was made from the same type of soul bone and the same age. As a result, Lu Yuan's divine equipment was like an amalgamation of all kinds of soul bones. It was a little messy and couldn't be truly integrated into a whole. Therefore, Lu Yuan planned to completely condense his godly equipment. He wanted to fuse the advantages and specialties of the various soul bones together to form a complete whole. He wanted to forge the strongest godly equipment. Aside from the soul bones themselves, condensing a set of godly equipment also required other types of energy to act as catalysts and fusing agents. The Neptunia bead played such a role. Of course, aside from the Neptunia bead, he also had the Golden Dragon King's crystal, so the difficulty of condensing a set of godly equipment had decreased significantly. Lu Yuan's soul bones all over his body lit up at the same time. Then, they all transformed, and the set of colorful godly equipment appeared on his body again. Clear Qi divine power appear. He murmured softly. His spiritual power surged, and white clear Qi divine power surged out in a frenzy. It formed a white domain that tightly enveloped Lu Yuan. Condensing a set of godly equipment wasn't an easy task. The first step was to peel off the soul bones and use their divine power to modify them. This was an extremely painful process, and without the protection of clear Qi divine power, even Lu Yuan might not be able to endure it. The second step was to use the power of the Neptunia bead and the Golden Dragon King's crystal to completely refine all parts of the set of godly equipment, thereby completely fusing them together. The third step was to attach the set of godly equipment to his body again. After that, he would use his clear Qi divine power to nourish the set of godly equipment. Only after reaching this step could he truly complete the set of godly equipment. Lu Yuan took a glance at Gu Yuna before a determined look appeared in his eyes. The soul bones in his left and right arms flew out at the same time, transforming into a giant blue dragon and a giant golden dragon that danced in the air. Lu Yuan gritted his teeth as sweat dripped down his forehead. Veins bulged on his forehead as his soul bones were forcibly stripped off. This was an unimaginable pain to normal people. Obuchi, Gu Yuna said in a soft voice. Her purple eyes were filled with tenderness. Her heart throbbed with pain at the sight of Lu Yuan's pain. However, even though her heart ached, she didn't try to stop Lu Yuan. This was Lu Yuan's decision, and she respected Lu Yuan's decision. Furthermore, Lu Yuan really did need to become more powerful. Again, Lu Yuan snorted softly as his left and right leg bones were stripped off at the same time. Two giant dragons, one white and one black, soared into the sky and roared into the sky. Lu Yuan couldn't help but clench his fists as the pain assaulted him once again. He channeled his clear Qi divine power to modify the 4 soul bones that he had stripped off. Neptunia's pearl floated in the air as golden energy radiance was injected into the 4 soul bones. Every set of godly equipment that was formed from the soul bones carried a layer of energy from Neptunia's dragon pearl. Skull and torso bones stripped them off. The skull and torso bones were stripped off at the same time under Lu Yuan's control. The pain that assaulted him in that instant caused Lu Yuan's vision to turn black, and he almost fainted. Generally speaking, the skull and torso bones couldn't be stripped off. However, that was only for humans. Gods were an exception. With godly power, even external soul bones could be stripped off and modified, let alone the skull and torso bones. In the original work, when Tang San went through the 9th test, he had to strip off his soul bones and modify them. At that time, even the external soul bone, the 8 spider spears, was stripped off and modified into the 8 wings of the sea god. If the sea god could do something like that, then Lu Yuan naturally couldn't do it any worse than him. Furthermore, he had the protection of the clear Qi divine power and Lu Yuan's divine body, so even if his soul bone was stripped away, his life wouldn't be in any danger. However, the pain that was even more intense than death by 1,000 cuts was unavoidable. It's so king painful, especially when I have to do it to myself. There are only a few people in this world who are as crazy as me. Lu Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air. All 6 of his proper soul bones had been stripped off, and the pain was truly heart-wrenching. Lu Yuan's face suddenly turned green when he recalled that he still had 6 external soul bones. Back then, he was overjoyed when he absorbed the external soul bones, but now, he was a little regretful. Stripping the proper soul bones was already so painful. Wouldn't the external soul bones be more painful? Chapter 1158. He was in as much pain as he was surprised at the start. Lu Yuan's heart was pounding as he looked at his hands. He had already reached this stage. No matter how painful it was, he had to grit his teeth and bear with it. Atlas palm bone, dark golden terraclaw, peel them off. Lu Yuan made up his mind and forced the Atlas palm bone and the dark golden terraclaw out of his body under the influence of his will. Pain, heart-wrenching pain. If the pain of the main soul bone was bone-piercing, then the pain of the external soul bone being peeled off was soul-piercing. The external soul bone was connected to one's origin. This was also the reason why it could evolve. It was also because of this that peeling it off was as if a part of one's body had been cut off. Arg! Lu Yuan's teeth were chattering, and his forehead was covered in sweat. The pain of his two palm bones being peeled off made him feel as if his soul was being torn apart. It was truly unbearable. Obuchi! Gu Yuna's purple eyes narrowed, and she looked as if she couldn't bear to see Lu Yuan in such pain. Kacha! Another sound was heard. Lu Yuan shook off the 3 pairs of dragon wings on his back. The peeling of the 3 pairs of dragon wings caused Lu Yuan's entire back to go numb. The blood vessels on his neck burst, and the veins on his forehead were exposed. His handsome face was filled with pain. Lu Yuan dared to swear that he had never experienced such pain before. Whether it was the time when his bones were broken by the Blood Emperor or the time when his body was tempered by the holy flames on the 9 steps to heaven, they paled in comparison to this pain. Lu Yuan clenched his fists tightly, and his body exuded golden blood energy. After his soul bones were peeled off one after another, his aura was extremely weak. He stood there, and his entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. This time, Gu Yuna couldn't sit still anymore. Seeing Lu Yuan's body trembling and his pained expression, she couldn't help but stand up and rush towards Lu Yuan. She dove into the domain formed by the clear Qi divine power and gently supported Lu Yuan. What are you doing here? Get out. Lu Yuan said weakly with a pale face. Obuchi, that's enough, that's really enough. Don't continue like this. The soul bones you've extracted are enough to construct a perfect set of god equipment. Gu Yuna held Lu Yuan in her arms, and her eyes were filled with heartache as she spoke in a gentle voice. No, it's not enough. There's still one last step. If I don't remove the Golden Dragon battle armor, my divine equipment will never be perfect. The Golden Dragon battle armor is the most important among my divine equipment. It's the core and foundation that connects all of my soul bone divine equipment. Lu Yuan shook his head and said with a resolute expression. But this piece of armor soul bone covers your entire body. The pain of removing it is even more intense than all the soul bones you've removed before. Do you not want to live anymore? Gu Yuna glared at Lu Yuan with indescribable fury burning in her purple eyes. Lu Yuan faltered slightly upon seeing this before a faint smile appeared on his face. He raised a hand and gently stroked Gu Yuna's beautiful face. The Golden Dragon battle armor was his first soul bone, and it was the most important soul bone that he used the most frequently. After many evolutions, the Golden Dragon battle armor was now superior to all of his soul bones. Every time he absorbed a soul ring, every time he became more powerful, and every time his bloodline became more powerful, the Golden Dragon battle armor benefited the most from it. After absorbing the 9th soul ring, the Golden Dragon battle armor had already become a Grade 1 God bone. After that, the Golden Dragon battle armor evolved again with the influx of dragon power from the Dragon Valley. The Water Fire Wind Dragon King's 3 wings, the Atlas palm bone, the Dark Golden Terraclaw Bear's right palm bone, and the Taotia's skull had all evolved, but they were only at the pinnacle of Grade 1 God bones. They were not much different from the Mountain Dragon King's torso bone. Only the Golden Dragon battle armor, the external soul bone that he had obtained from the gold-scale Imperial Dragon Tortoise, which was an external soul bone that was born from a super soul beast that possessed a faint golden dragon bloodline, had reached the highest level after this evolution. Right now, the Golden Dragon battle armor had completely surpassed the level of a Grade 1 God bone and reached the level of a half-step godly king. Just this set of Golden Dragon battle armor alone was already at the level of a half-step godly king, and it could be considered a quasi-transcendent divine tool. It was also because of this that removing the golden dragon battle armor was the most difficult, and the pain was also the most intense. It was far more painful than the other soul bones. Even so, at this point, he had no way out. He could either not do it or do it to the best of his ability. Don't worry, Nar, I'll be fine. Lu Yuan gently kissed Gu Yuna's forehead as he spoke in a gentle voice. Gu Yuna grabbed Lu Yuan's right hand with a resolute expression and said, "No, I'm worried. I won't allow you to continue messing around like this. Nar, listen to me. I have the esoteric character, so I'll be fine. Look, I've already completely recovered." Lu Yuan had already completely returned to normal after using the esoteric character. However, his aura was still very weak. After all, every soul bone that was removed from his body was a drop in his strength. "No, I won't." Gu Yuna still shook her head with a look of resistance on her face. The golden dragon battle armor was no small matter. Given Lu Yuan's current state, if he were to remove it, he might faint from the pain. She didn't want to see Lu Yuan in such pain again. "Gu Yuna, are you not going to listen to me anymore?" After failing to persuade her twice, Lu Yuan spoke in an indifferent voice as he stared intently at Gu Yuna. There was a hint of sternness in his voice. "I'm not listening. No matter what you say today, I won't listen." Gu Yuna's purple eyes refused to budge an inch as she stubbornly stared at Lu Yuan. After looking at each other for a while, Lu Yuan sighed softly as he gently embraced Gu Yuna. "Nar, I'm very happy that you're so concerned about me. However, with the protection of the clear aura divine power and the esoteric character, I really won't be in any danger at all. As for pain, if I want to attain extraordinary strength, I naturally have to endure unimaginable pain. If I want to forge the #1 divine armor that has never been seen before, how can I do it without suffering a little? There's no free lunch in this world. You have to put in a lot of effort to reap the rewards. I've already endured so much pain. Do you want me to stop at this final step? Do you want me to suffer all that pain in vain?" "Nah, Lu Yuan asked in a soft voice. I didn't mean that. I just don't want to see you struggling in pain. Seeing you in pain really makes my heart ache." Gu Yuna hurriedly spoke as her eyes flickered with bone-deep affection. As the Silver Dragon King, she had seen the most bloody and cruel scenes. She had also heard the most mournful wails. She could be heartless to everyone in the world, and she could also watch people die in front of her without feeling anything. However, Lu Yuan was her lover. He was the softest part of her heart. She really couldn't bear to see Lu Yuan in pain. Every time Lu Yuan screamed in pain, she felt as if her heart was being cut by a knife. She would rather be the one in pain than Lu Yuan. Hearing Gu Yuna's words, Lu Yuan's eyes softened as he gently kissed Gu Yuna's cheek. Their foreheads touched as the two of them stared at each other. "Nar, I'll only ask you one thing. Do you believe in me?" Lu Yuan asked in a soft voice. His voice was filled with indescribable seriousness. "I've always believed in you." Gu Yuna nodded slightly in response. "Good. What I want to do will definitely succeed, right?" Lu Yuan asked. "Yes." Gu Yuna's eyes flickered slightly as she replied. Lu Yuan smiled gently as he gently pecked Gu Yuna's red lip. Do you still remember what you said on our wedding day? You said that no matter what I do, you'll always support me unswervingly. No matter what I say, you'll always listen to me. What about your performance just now? Are you going to go back on your words now?" "I don't want to go back on my words. It's just that." Gu Yuna opened her mouth to argue, but was interrupted by Lu Yuan. "Since you don't want to go back on your words, then listen to me now. Obediently close your eyes and stand aside. If I don't tell you to open your eyes, you're not allowed to secretly open them. If I don't tell you to, you're not allowed to move. Do you hear me?" Lu Yuan asked in a soft voice. All right, it's settled." Lu Yuan pulled Gu Yuna to the side and gently closed her eyes for her. Looking at Gu Yuna's flawless body, Lu Yuan couldn't help but deeply kiss her. In a gentle voice, he said, "Now, thank you for your concern. I love you, but if you close your eyes and can't see, then you won't feel any more heartache. You're only allowed to move when I come back. If you move on your own, then I'll punish you. When the time comes, I'll spank your little butt." Lu Yuan smiled and kissed her again. He then turned around, and his expression suddenly became serious. Lu Yuan walked back to the original spot again. Gu Yuna clenched her fists as she struggled internally. Her eyelashes trembled slightly as she tried to open her eyes countless times. However, when she recalled Lu Yuan's words, she sighed deeply and chose to give up in the end. She knew that Lu Yuan was very determined. Once Lu Yuan made up his mind, no one could stop him. She couldn't, and neither could Chihiro Snow or Bibidan. "Obuchi, you can do it!" Gu Yuna's red lips trembled. She was cheering for Lu Yuan in her heart. On the other side, Lu Yuan raised his head slightly and looked at the 11 soul bone sets above him. Each soul bone set shone with a different light, and there was a layer of golden light on each soul bone set. That was the essence of Neptunia's dragon pearl. "Golden dragon armor!" Lu Yuan shouted, and the golden dragon armor appeared. "Separate!" Lu Yuan whispered again. The golden dragon armor started to separate from Lu Yuan's body. Suddenly, an unparalleled pain attacked Lu Yuan. From the beginning to the end, every muscle and nerve ending was screaming in pain. Lu Yuan's entire body convulsed, and his teeth creaked as he gritted them. He clenched his fists so tightly that his fingernails dug into his flesh. Golden blood flowed out slowly and dripped down from Lu Yuan's palm onto the ground. Lu Yuan's handsome face was completely red, and his eyes were filled with golden blood vessels. His spiritual sea shook violently, and the intense pain shook Lu Yuan's soul. His spiritual sea, which was as firm as a rock, started to surge. The Water Dragon King, Mountain Dragon King, and the other spirits helped to calm his spiritual sea. The spirit-cleansing seed emitted a white light, nourishing Lu Yuan's body and protecting Lu Yuan's safety. What a crazy guy! In Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness, the Fire Dragon King could not help but sigh as it tried to soothe Lu Yuan's sea of consciousness. "He is indeed crazy, but he's also very brave," the Water Dragon King said softly with a hint of admiration in his voice. "This is our master, the master who suppressed the dragon god's aura." The Mountain Dragon King's deep voice sounded, and his eyes were filled with admiration. The Titan giant ape threw its head back and roared, "Roar, my lord, you're amazing!" Even though his strength had increased significantly, the Titan giant ape's simple and honest personality was still the same. Among the 4 spirits, the Titan giant ape had the lowest status. He was just an errand boy. However, the Fire Dragon King, the Water Dragon King, and the Mountain Dragon King were all very fond of the Titan giant ape. After all, the Titan giant ape was so simple-minded, so it was very difficult for anyone to dislike him. The 3 Dragon Kings smiled in unison upon hearing the Titan giant ape's words. Just as the Titan giant ape had said, they also felt that Lu Yuan was very powerful. "Arg! Break away!" Lu Yuan gritted his teeth and forced those words out of his mouth. He abruptly struggled, and his golden dragon battle armor was completely detached from his body. Golden blood mist spread out in all directions, and Lu Yuan's legs gave out from under him, and he collapsed to the ground. Pain, numbness, and spasms all over his body. Lu Yuan's body trembled involuntarily, and he felt as if his thoughts were blurring. His entire body was so sore and powerless that he couldn't even raise a finger. The light in his dual pupils dimmed, and the blood essence circulation in his body slowed down. His aura instantly became extremely feeble. "Am I going to faint?" Lu Yuan murmured. "No, I can't faint. If I faint now, all my efforts will be for naught." This thought flashed across Lu Yuan's mind, and his strong willpower suddenly burst forth. Clear aura scripture, circulate. Under the control of Lu Yuan's strong willpower, the clear aura scripture's soul power started to circulate rapidly. At the same time, the secret word was also activated. Clear aura and divine power enveloped his body, and he started to recover. Lu Yuan's complexion quickly improved under the three-pronged treatment. The injuries caused by the Golden Dragon battle armor were quickly healed, but the feeling of weakness still couldn't be dispelled. After a few minutes, Lu Yuan stood up and looked at the 12 soul bone sets floating in the sky. There was a smile on his face. It wasn't easy to completely detach all 12 soul bones. If he had to do it again, he really wouldn't have the courage to do it again. Compared to this kind of pain, death was an extremely joyful thing. I'm probably the weakest I've ever been in my entire life. Any titled Douluo can probably kill me at this moment. Lu Yuan mocked himself as he glanced at Gu Yuna. His heart skipped a beat and he walked towards her. Chapter 1159. Gu Yuna's eyes trembled slightly, and she could hear Lu Yuan's approaching footsteps. Even though her eyes were closed, her senses were still very sharp. Great, Xiao Yuan is fine. Gu Yuna couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Lu Yuan made his way over to Gu Yuna before stopping in front of her. He inhaled Gu Yuna's alluring fragrance and looked at her breathtakingly beautiful face, and he couldn't help but reach out with his right hand to gently caress her cheek. "Nar, you can open your eyes now," Lu Yuan said with a gentle smile. Gu Yuna opened her eyes, and dazzling light burst forth from within. She stared at Lu Yuan with a hint of resentment in her purple eyes. "Alright, you're still angry. How about I apologize to you?" Lu Yuan chuckled. He knew why Gu Yuna was acting like this. Gu Yuna was still a little displeased with his insistence on stripping away her Golden Dragon battle armor. "Humph." Gu Yuna harumphed coldly before turning her head away with an expression that said, "I'm ignoring you." A wry smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face before he stepped forward and drew Gu Yuna into his arms. "Nar, don't be angry anymore, alright?" Lu Yuan gently kissed Gu Yuna's cheek in a gentle and placid voice. "Not good," Gu Yuna replied in a cold voice. "Sigh." Lu Yuan heaved a forlorn sigh before stepping forward and sealing Gu Yuna's lips with his own. There was nothing he could do about it. If he couldn't convince her, then he would have to kiss her first. Gu Yuna struggled gently as she thumped her hands against Lu Yuan's chest. After a short while, her struggles gradually subsided, and she began to respond to his kiss. Their lips parted, and Lu Yuan looked at Gu Yuna with a gentle expression. Gu Yuna's eyes were glazed over, and there was a thin layer of mist in her eyes as she slumped feebly into Lu Yuan's arms. "Na-er," Lu Yuan called out softly, his voice filled with deep affection. Gu Yuna raised her head and her purple eyes flashed. She raised her right hand and pulled Lu Yuan's ear, causing Lu Yuan to grimace in pain. "You bastard, all you do is mess around and make me worry," Gu Yuna complained, but her voice was full of concern. She couldn't stop Lu Yuan from doing what he wanted to do, so she could only worry and be afraid. "I promise this is the last time. It won't happen again," Lu Yuan said seriously. "Like hell I'll believe you." Gu Yuna rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. She had never believed in Lu Yuan's so-called guarantee. It was simply unreliable. On the contrary, the things that Lu Yuan usually mentioned without leaving a trace were completed one by one. After knowing Lu Yuan for so long, she had already known Lu Yuan's personality quite well. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled bitterly. It seemed that no one believed in his guarantee these days. Bibidon was like this, Chihiro Snow was like this, and now Gu Yuna was like this. However, thinking of those girlfriends he had, he was relieved. After all, he didn't do it first, so Gu Yuna naturally wouldn't believe him. Don't do such dangerous things in the future. Even if you don't care about yourself, you have to consider our feelings. I know I can't control you, But if you continue to mess around and don't take your life seriously, I won't talk to you anymore. Don't think I'm joking. I'm serious. In this world, the only thing I care about is you. I can watch anyone die, but I don't want you to be hurt, do you understand? Gu Yuna stared at Lu Yuan and said with a serious face. I know. I know that my Na is the best. Lu Yuan held Gu Yuna tightly in his arms and chuckled. Don't try to fool around with me. I'm telling you very seriously. I don't care what you like to do, but you have to protect yourself first. Otherwise, I won't talk to you anymore. Do you know how hard it is for me when you're in pain? Do you know how I feel when you're howling with grief and anguish while I can only stand beside you? This feeling of fear and anxiety is driving me to the brink of a mental breakdown. I don't want to experience this feeling again, do you understand? Gu Yuna looked at Lu Yuan with a meaningful expression. I understand. Lu Yuan held on to Gu Yuna's hand and nodded with a firm expression. He could naturally sense Gu Yuna's concern, and his heart was filled with joy. In all honesty, if it weren't for the fact that he had no other choice, who would want to detach his soul bone? If he could choose, he would rather die than experience this pain again. This kind of pain was simply unbearable for humans. Even with his constitution, spiritual power, and iron-like willpower, he had almost fainted. This kind of pain was simply unimaginable. If I could go back in time, I wish I hadn't obtained the Golden Dragon battle armor. Lu Yuan lamented internally. The Golden Dragon battle armor was his favorite external soul bone, and it had always provided him with a lot of help. He had always been very thankful that he had obtained the Golden Dragon battle armor. However, only after experiencing the pain of detaching his soul bone did he realize just how naive he had been back then. There was no ultimate pain, only greater pain. He would never forget the excruciating pain of detaching his Golden Dragon battle armor for the rest of his life. Thankfully, this pain was over, and it was time for him to reap the fruits of his labor. Lu Yuan looked at Gu Yuna and asked in a gentle voice, do you want to see how I materialize my divine armor? All right. Gu Yuna nodded slightly, and her voice was gentle and pleasant. Since Lu Yuan had already agreed to her request, she couldn't be bothered to say anything else. If she said anything more, it would only annoy Lu Yuan. She was a smart girl and naturally understood these things. Furthermore, Gu Yuna was actually very curious about what kind of divine equipment Lu Yuan would be able to refine from his soul bone after going through so much pain and agony. After receiving Gu Yuna's consent, Lu Yuan held her hand and walked towards the soul bone. The 12 soul bones all floated in midair. 6 were the main soul bones, and the other 6 were external soul bones. These were all Lu Yuan's soul bones. One of them was a half-step godly king-level Golden Dragon battle armor, and the remaining 11 were all Class 1 godly bones. Lu Yuan could guarantee that such a luxurious combination was definitely one of a kind in the entire Douluo continent, and perhaps even the entire Douluo divine realm. Neptunia's pearl, which was originally floating in midair, had already disappeared. However, every single soul bone had been imbued with the power of Neptunia's dragon pearl. As long as Lu Yuan unleashed his pure aura divine power, he would be able to successfully integrate all of the soul bones. Lu Yuan paused slightly, and turned around slightly. He smiled at Gu Yuna and said, watch my performance. Alright. Gu Yuna nodded gently, and her purple eyes shone with dazzling light. Lu Yuan smiled and raised his head slightly to look at the 12 soul bone set. Lu Yuan raised his hand and a white light was released from his hand. This was the purest pure aura divine power. The dense white light enveloped the 12 soul bone set. Under Lu Yuan's control, the blue left arm set, the golden right arm set, the black right leg set, the white right leg set, the black head set, and the white right leg set all flew out one by one. After that, they collided with each other and quickly rotated. The 12 soul bone sets collided with each other, and then rotated rapidly, forming a huge 9-colored energy whirlwind. Lu Yuan's spiritual power stepped into it, and guided the Bless You soul bone sets as they collided with each other and fused together. With pure aura divine power as the foundation, and the golden dragon battle armor as the core, the 12 soul bone sets began to truly fuse and assemble. "Let me give you a hand," Gu Yuna muttered softly, and a burst of 9-colored energy emerged from her body and fused into the huge 9-colored energy whirlpool above her. The power of the Dragon God. "You're using the power of the Dragon God's heart?" Lu Yuan couldn't help but glance at Gu Yuna. "Yes, I'm helping you. With the power of the Dragon God, it'll be easier for them to fuse. After all, the Douluo dragon clan basically originates from the Dragon God," Gu Yuna said softly. "That's true." Lu Yuan nodded in agreement. No matter what, all of his soul bones were basically dragon soul bones, and with the power of the Dragon God, it was indeed a lot easier. "You've reminded me of something." Lu Yuan's mind stirred, and the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King's golden blood energy also seeped into the soul bone sets as a kind of fusion power. With the power of the Dragon God and the 5-clawed Golden Dragon King's bloodline power, the speed of the divine armor's condensation was greatly increased. Less than 6 hours later, the divine armor's fusion was basically complete. The colorful soul bone set had already disappeared, and the divine armor that appeared in midair was entirely 9-colored, and it was radiating dazzling 9-colored light. Extremely terrifying energy fluctuations were imbued within the divine armor. "There's one last step left." Lu Yuan picked up a rhombus-shaped golden crystal. This was formed from the purest Golden Dragon King energy, and it was specifically used as a finishing touch. Lu Yuan was going to use this crystal to completely stabilize the divine armor, and at the same time, he was going to unleash its full power. He flicked his finger, and the golden rhombus-shaped crystal disappeared into the chest of the divine armor. Brilliant light immediately erupted from the divine armor, and all of its aura was completely unleashed. Terrifying divine might proliferated through the air in a frenzy, and a loud dragon's roar reverberated throughout the heavens. The winds and clouds in the sky suddenly changed, and dragon clouds surged violently. Boundless dragon clouds surged into the divine armor in a frenzy, carrying out the final baptism for the divine armor. After an indeterminate period of time, a buzzing sound rang out from the divine armor, and it was finally complete. A 9-colored golden pillar of light erupted from the divine armor, and it shot straight into the heavens. The divine armor hovered in midair, and it was emanating boundless divine light. "Good, very good." Lu Yuan wore an extremely pleased expression on his face. The aura emanating from the divine armor was not inferior in the slightest to that of the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear. The Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear was the most powerful superdivine tool, and from the looks of it, this set of divine armor had perhaps reached the pinnacle of superdivine tools, just like the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear. "Come!" Lu Yuan waved a hand, and the entire set of divine armor instantly disassembled before quickly fusing into Lu Yuan's body. Lu Yuan's entire body began to emit 9-colored golden light, and the divine armor quickly covered Lu Yuan's body. Boundless energy surged, and Lu Yuan's aura began to skyrocket crazily. Originally, his aura had declined due to the stripping of his soul bone, but at this moment, his aura skyrocketed, and soon surpassed his original peak state, reaching a whole new height. Even Gu Yuna, who was standing beside Lu Yuan, couldn't help but raise her eyebrows slightly. Even she couldn't help but raise her eyebrows at this aura. What a powerful amplification! Lu Yuan clenched his fist, and felt that his strength had reached an unprecedented height. If his original aura was comparable to that of a first-tier god, then his current aura was infinitely close to that of a divine king. Coupled with the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear, even if he didn't use the God-slaying spear, Lu Yuan might be able to exchange blows with a divine king. Of course, this was only Lu Yuan's own guess. Without fighting, no one would know the specific situation. As for how strong a divine king was, even Lu Yuan himself didn't know. But anyway, it wasn't something a first-tier god could compare with. It was basically impossible for a first-tier god to win against a divine king, even if they had a super-divine tool, because a divine king also had a super-divine tool. However, not to mention winning, just exchanging blows, Lu Yuan still had some confidence in relying on the new divine armor and the Dragon Emperor draining spring spear. He might not win, but he definitely wouldn't lose. After all, his secret character, and so on weren't just for show. With a thought, Lu Yuan sized up the divine armor on his body, and he was extremely satisfied. The new divine armor got rid of the colorful and messy state, and perfectly merged all the soul bone sets together. The 9-colored divine armor was incomparably gorgeous, and it exuded an indescribable sense of nobility. There were gorgeous patterns on the left and right arms, and there were even 2 divine dragon shoulder ornaments on the shoulders. The dragon mouths were slightly open, and it was majestic. The chest area was densely covered with layered armor, and there were beautiful and exquisite cloud patterns on it. Outside the armor, there was a thick breastplate that covered the entire chest area. There was a bright pearl on the breastplate that was emitting 9-colored golden light, and there were 2 whistling 9-colored divine dragons engraved on it, surrounding and protecting the bright pearl in the middle. The lower part of the body was equally gorgeous, and the scale-like armor covered the lower part of the body. There were also divine dragon patterns on both sides of the boot. At the intersection of the upper and lower body armor, there was a 9-colored golden rhombus-shaped gem, and there was also an extremely exquisite divine dragon engraving on this gem. There were 9 divine dragon patterns on the entire set of divine armor, and it also represented the 9 Supremes. On the back of the divine armor, there were 3 pairs of huge 9-colored golden dragon wings. The dragon wings were gently extended, and there was a huge amount of energy gathered in them, and it continuously flowed into Lu Yuan's body. Lu Yuan's mind moved, and the golden and jade Dragon Emperor draining spring spear appeared in his hand. He pointed the spear horizontally. The gorgeous divine armor, the powerful weapon, and together with Lu Yuan's looks, made him look extraordinarily handsome, and it made Gu Yuna's eyes light up. So handsome! Gu Yuna's little heart pounded slightly, and she couldn't help but reach out to touch Lu Yuan's face. Lu Yuan was already extremely handsome, and now with the help of the divine armor, he was even more handsome. Even Gu Yuna, who was intimate with him day and night, couldn't help but look infatuated. Chapter 1160. Seeing Gu Yuna like this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile, and gently grabbed her jade-like hand. "Do I look good?" Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. "Yes." Gu Yuna's red lips opened slightly, and she nodded with a serious expression. The current Lu Yuan was indeed a little too handsome. "How good is it?" Lu Yuan gently hugged Gu Yuna and asked with a smile. "Very good, very good." Gu Yuna's purple eyes flickered slightly, and she couldn't help but say, "Then do you like it?" Lu Yuan lowered his head and approached Gu Yuna. The two of them were very close, and he could clearly smell the faint body fragrance on Gu Yuna's body. This fragrance was intoxicating. "I like it." Gu Yuna spat out 2 words in a low voice, looking at Lu Yuan with infatuation and deep affection. "I also like you very much, Na-er." The corners of Lu Yuan's mouth curled up slightly, and he directly kissed Gu Yuna's red lip. Gu Yuna paused slightly, and her red lips trembled, and she actually took the initiative to kiss him. Their lips met, and there was a thick sweetness that couldn't be melted away. Lu Yuan's mind moved, and he directly took Gu Yuna out of the dragon tomb, found a secluded and beautiful place, and the two of them had a deeper conversation. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye 2 years had passed. In these 2 years, Lu Yuan had already completely absorbed the remaining golden dragon soul ring, and his cultivation had gradually increased to an unfathomable realm. After that, Lu Yuan wholeheartedly comprehended the clear air divine seed and the secret character Lin that he obtained from signing in. In the blink of an eye, it was already here. In the dragon tomb, Lu Yuan sat cross-legged, and his whole body exuded a bright white light. He was comprehending the power of destiny, and he had already comprehended the clear air divine seed to the final juncture. As long as he could successfully comprehend the mystery of the power of destiny, then he could completely comprehend the entire clear air divine seed in one fell swoop, and become a god of laws. Therefore, at this moment, he was exceptionally engrossed and had completely sunk into a state where he forgot about everything around him. Not far away from Lu Yuan, Gu Yuna was sitting cross-legged. She was looking at Lu Yuan with her beautiful eyes, and there was deep affection in her eyes. Other than studying the dragon god's heart, she spent the rest of her time sizing up Lu Yuan. It had been 2 years since Lu Yuan taught her the secret of Lin, and she had only just learned it. As one of the most powerful techniques of the human race, it was indeed rather difficult for a silver dragon monarch like Gu Yuna to comprehend them. On the other hand, Lu Yuan was much faster than Gu Yuna in comprehending the secret character of Lin. Now that he had comprehended the secret character of Lin to a certain level, it would be of great help to his battle prowess. It was not something that Gu Yuna could compare with. After failing to comprehend the secret character of Lin for a long time, Gu Yuna had already given up on comprehending it. She felt that being able to learn the secret character of Lin to improve her battle prowess was already good enough. She wasn't interested in Lu Yuan yet. Gu Yuna was very satisfied with the 2 years that she had spent with Lu Yuan in the Dragon Valley. There was a wide smile on her face every day. The only downside was that Lu Yuan had entered a critical period recently. He hadn't opened his eyes for 3 months. She also hadn't spoken to Lu Yuan for 3 months. Sigh, it's so boring. But Obuchi looks like he's about to break through his final shackles. I can't disturb him. Gu Yuna muttered softly. Her purple eyes were fixed on Lu Yuan without blinking. In a dark forest in the Sun-Moon Empire, in the Lake of Blood, a blood-red figure slowly emerged. His body was emitting a blood-red light, and a thick black fog quickly swept out in all directions from his body. Haha, half a year has passed. Soul Devil Feather, you've finally become an ultimate Douluo. We can get down to business now. A streak of black light flew out of the crimson figure's body. The light flashed and turned into a blurry black figure. The figure was a little illusory, but it exuded a terrifying aura. He looked up into the sky and laughed. His voice was sharp and piercing, and carried a strong sense of evil. Are you sure you can defeat that guy with your strength? The crimson figure asked softly. His voice was hoarse, and there was a strong killing intent in his voice. Of course I can. That kid is nothing. I can defeat him in a matter of minutes. The black figure snorted coldly. His voice was full of disdain. Then why did you lose so miserably that day? The crimson figure's voice sounded again. What do you know? Right now, this king is just a clone. That brat's strength is indeed not bad. He is on par with this king's clone back then. However, if he didn't cheat that day, how could he have won against this king? In front of this king's true body, that brat is just an ant. This king can crush him to death with a single finger. As if the crimson figure's words had hit his sore spot, the black figure suddenly became agitated and said loudly, Really? The crimson figure asked aloud. Are you doubting me? The black figure said faintly, and his scarlet eyes flashed with a fierce light. I wouldn't dare. After all, that person is too strong. I'm just worried. The crimson figure hurriedly said. These 2 figures were the holy son of the holy ghost cult, Soul Devil Feather, and the evil god behind the holy ghost cult. When Soul Devil Feather used blood escape to escape, the fallen crystal was cut in half by Lu Yuan, and the black figure escaped with the other half. Who would have thought that these two fellows, who were escaping at the same time, would run into each other? And from the looks of it, they seemed to have a new plan. Don't worry, as long as my main body breaks free from the shackles, that kid is just an ant. I can destroy him with a wave of my hand. But Soul Devil Feather, are you really willing to sacrifice your soul and life to summon me? The black figure looked at Soul Devil Feather and said coldly. Soul Devil Feather gritted his teeth, and the expression in his eyes changed slightly. In the past 6 months, he had used the evil technique taught by the black figure to kill millions of creatures in a short period of time and absorbed their life force to finally raise his cultivation to the limit Douluo level. The blood of millions of creatures had gathered to form the blood-red lake in front of him. The black figure had a sacrificial method, which was to use the blood of millions of creatures as the foundation and the life and soul of unlimited Douluo as the guide to use the blood sacrifice method to summon his main body. This blood sacrifice method was not only heartless, but also required unlimited Douluo to be willing to sacrifice their life and soul. It was because of this that this blood sacrifice method had never appeared before. After all, there were very few people who could become limit Douluo, and these people were all people with strong mind. For example, people like Cho Mui, Emperor Qing, and Emperor Bai pursued great strength to dominate and satisfy their desires. How could they sacrifice themselves to summon the black figure's main body? This was simply impossible. Every man for himself. Even the Pasizi, who had devoted his life to the sea god, had hesitated when it came to sacrificing his life. The best proof was when he attacked Tang San in the original work. As for the people of the Holy Ghost cult, there was no need to talk about them. Chapter 1161. Therefore, the Black Shadow decided to use another method, which was to unify the continent. By unifying the Douluo continent, it could use the powerful destiny of the two continents to help it break through the cage and reappear in the world. However, the Holy Ghost Church was completely annihilated in the Battle of the Extreme North. This plan was completely ruined, and the only path left was the blood sacrifice summoning. Coincidentally, the Black Shadow met Soul Devil Feather. Soul Devil Feather was adopted by Cho Mui from a young age. From birth, he was a member of the Holy Ghost Church and was incomparably loyal to them. To Soul Devil Feather, Cho Mui was like a biological father, and their relationship was extremely deep. To Cho Mui, these were the two most important things in his life. As for the Holy Spirit sect and Cho Mui, both of them had died at Lu Yuan's hands. Thus, Soul Devil Feather wanted nothing more than to eat Lu Yuan's flesh, drink his blood, and tear apart his bones. However, Lu Yuan's strength was far superior to Soul Devil Feather's. It was impossible for Soul Devil Feather to rely on himself to take revenge. It was also because of this that the Black Shadow began to persuade him. Under the Black Shadow's bewitchment, Soul Devil Feather began to walk the path of blood sacrifice. The power of hatred was extremely terrifying. Could make people go crazy. The deeper Soul Devil Feather's feelings for the Holy Ghost Church and Cho Mui, the deeper his hatred for Lu Yuan was. Using Soul Devil Feather's hatred, the Black Shadow bewitched him to slaughter millions of living beings and used their life force to reach the level of an ultimate Douluo in just half a year. Soul Devil Feather's foundation was definitely unstable, but the Black Shadow didn't care. As long as he was an ultimate Douluo, it was fine. The Black Shadow only needed the life and soul of an ultimate Douluo. Now, everything was ready and they had reached the final step. Hearing the Black Shadow's question, Soul Devil Feather's expression changed, and he struggled in his heart. For him to take the initiative to sacrifice his own life and soul, he was definitely unwilling in his heart. But as soon as he thought of how Cho Mui had taken care of him, as well as how the Holy Spirit Church had been destroyed, the fires of hatred in his heart burned uncontrollably. Are you sure your main body can kill that guy after I sacrifice myself? Soul Devil Feather asked with some worry. Of course. This king's true body is a god king. Do you know what a God King is? That's the pinnacle of the world. Even in the divine realm, there aren't many who are a match for me, let alone that brat. In my eyes, he's just an ant. Moreover, Soul Devil Feather, you can only trust this king. With just you alone, you will never be able to take revenge. The Black Shadow laughed sinisterly. His laughter was filled with disdain. Hearing this, Soul Demon Feather clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot. Although what the Black Shadow said was unpleasant to hear, it was the truth. He would never be able to take revenge on his own. What should I do? The Soul Demon Feather's eyes flashed as he asked faintly. He had already made up his mind. Even if he had to sacrifice his life and soul, he would make Lu Yuan pay the price for destroying the Holy Spirit Church and killing Cho Mui. If he didn't get his revenge, there would be no meaning for him to live in this world. Haha, you've made a wise choice. Don't worry, this king will definitely help you tear that brat into pieces. Seeing that the Soul Demon Feather had finally agreed, the Black Shadow laughed, his scarlet eyes full of joy. The method is very simple. You only need to set up a sacrificial array, then transfer the blood into the array. Finally, you just need to burn your own life and soul to summon this king back. This is the sacrificial array. The Black Shadow casually pointed, and a black stream of light directly sank into the Soul Demon Feather's mind. I understand. The Soul Demon Feather nodded. His figure floated above the blood lake, and a series of black light patterns appeared out of thin air in midair. Under the Soul Demon Feather's carving, the light patterns quickly combined and turned into a huge magic light array with a diameter of thousands of meters. Power of blood, sacrifice! The Soul Demon Feather shouted, and the blood lake suddenly surged. Streams of blood flew out of thin air and were quickly swallowed up by the sacrificial array. As more and more blood poured in, the sacrificial array also became more and more powerful. About a quarter of an hour later, the entire blood lake was completely swallowed up by the sacrificial array. The originally black sacrificial array turned blood red and emitted extremely terrifying energy fluctuations. The Soul Demon Feather looked at the surrounding heaven and earth with nostalgia, and then his figure floated up and landed on the sacrificial array. His body began to bloom with blood-red flames, and his life and soul were completely ignited at this moment. Ancient and venerated sacred God, I will use all of my life and soul to summon you. The Soul Demon Feather's chanting resounded, and his entire body completely turned into a demonic blood-red flame. Suddenly, the sacrificial array seemed to be activated, and all the energy burst out, and a blood-red pillar of light shot into the sky. Somewhere in the Douluo continent, there was a dark valley without the slightest trace of light. At the bottom of the valley, two huge chains, one red and one purple, stretched out of nowhere and locked up a pitch-black figure with 12 black wings on his back. Suddenly, the pitch-black figure seemed to sense something and let out a cold and evil laugh. Suddenly, a huge blood-red pillar of light seemed to appear in the sky and shone directly on the pitch-black figure's body. The two huge chains, one red and one purple, started to slowly melt under this blood-red pillar of light. The power of sacrifice, haha, I'm finally free. The black figure laughed heartily, and black fog rose from his body. Together with the blood-red pillar of light, he attacked the two chains at the same time. The two chains shone with light and tried their best to resist. However, as time passed, the light on the chains became dimmer and dimmer. Finally, at a certain moment, the chains completely broke. A huge black pillar of light suddenly emerged from the pitch-black figure's body, and the black figure's body flashed, and he was already in midair. In midair, the black figure's appearance was completely revealed. His appearance was that of a middle-aged man. His face was deathly pale and his eyes were scarlet. There was a black angel brand on his forehead. It was different from the angel brand on Qian Renchue's forehead. This black angel brand had a total of 12 wings. just like the 12 black wings on his back that were flapping. This black figure was a 12-winged fallen angel. The black figure opened his hands slightly, and dense darkness started to spread. In just a moment, half the sky was covered, and it continued to spread. People of the Douluo continent tremble. I, the fallen god king Lucifer, have returned. Everyone in the world will crawl under my feet, ha 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 ha. The black figure roared into the sky, and a terrifying aura rushed into the clouds. Chapter 1162. Martial Spirit Palace, Lakeside Pavilion. Chihiro Snow's body suddenly shook. She quickly put down the teacup in her hand and placed her lily-white hand on her chest. She frowned slightly, her golden eyes suddenly focused, and a fierce murderous aura swept out. Seeing Chihiro Snow like this, Bibidon couldn't help but ask softly, "What's wrong? My heart is slightly throbbing. I keep feeling that a mortal enemy has appeared." Chihiro Snow frowned and said indifferently. Just now, her angelic bloodline had wildly fluctuated, and a strong sense of disgust had risen from the depths of her heart. This feeling was somewhat similar to the one she'd felt from the Holy Ghost Church's leader, Cho Mui, but it was much stronger. While she was disgusted, she also felt a sense of fear. She'd only felt this kind of fear from Gu Yuna and Lu Yuan when he'd revealed his strength. Her divine intuition told her that a storm was coming. Perhaps a huge trouble was about to come knocking on her door. Mortal enemy? Bibidon murmured softly, a trace of fluctuation flashing through her beautiful pink eyes. Hasn't the Holy Ghost Church been dealt with by Obuchi? Where did this mortal enemy come from? Bibidon said softly, a trace of confusion in her voice. I'm not sure, but my feeling can't be wrong. The throbbing just now gave me a strong sense of pressure. It's very likely that I won't be able to deal with this trouble. Chihiro Snow's watery golden eyes flickered slightly, but her voice was still calm. Even you can't deal with it? Bibidon's expression became serious. In the past 6 months, Chihiro Snow's strength had increased rapidly. After absorbing that half of the Angel God Crystal, she'd broken through from the peak of 2nd tier to 1st tier. That's right, Chihiro Snow was now a true 1st-tier god. Chihiro Snow was definitely the first person in history to break through to 1st tier without experiencing the baptism of immortal chi. Her talent and strength were both excellent, and her future was bright. However, Chihiro Snow actually said that she didn't have the confidence to deal with this trouble. How could this not shock Bibidon? Should we call Obuchi back? Bibidon tapped her slender fingers on the table as she asked softly. Even Chihiro Snow couldn't solve the problem. Perhaps only Lu Yuan could solve it in person. But it seems that we can't contact him even if we want to. Bibidong's voice fell and his voice changed, but he added another sentence. This time, Lu Yuan was heading to the Dragon Valley. He had told them before he left, but the problem was that they had no idea where the Dragon Valley was. We can't contact him, but there are people who can contact him and know where he is. Chihiro Snow's golden eyes flickered as he said softly. Who is it? Bibidon hurriedly asked. Beast God Dtion. Chihiro Snow's eyes shone brightly as he spoke. Beast God Dtion? How do you know that Dtion knows where the Dragon Valley is? Bibidon was a little confused as he asked. That's because the Dragon Valley is the territory of the dragons. Dtion is a dragon, and Gu Yuna is a dragon. Doesn't Obuchi also have the bloodline of the dragons? Gu Yuna was the one who brought Obuchi to the Dragon Valley. If I'm not wrong, Dtion should be Gu Yuna's subordinate, and Gu Yuna should be the leader of the dragons. Obuchi once said that Gu Yuna was a god who protected the great star Do forest. However, it seems like Obuchi was right, but he changed the concept. Gu Yuna isn't a god, but a god of soul beasts. She doesn't have the bloodline of the dragons, but she is a dragon herself. She is a soul beast. Chihiro Snow narrowed his eyes as he spoke. Gu Yuna is a soul beast? A look of astonishment flashed across Bibidan's eyes. However, she was also an extremely intelligent woman. After pondering for a moment, she could vaguely sense that something wasn't right. It seems like you have your guesses. Obuchi has always been very mysterious. It's just that we didn't investigate too deeply. For example, his fifth soul ring, where he went during the year that he disappeared, and so on. We believed him when he said it, and we never investigated him. However, there are still many loopholes in his story. Chihiro Snow spoke softly. That's because you believed him. I never believed him. I could tell that he was lying, but I didn't want to force him to tell me. I knew that he must have his reasons. However, I didn't think that this was his reason. He actually fell in love with a soul beast. Bibidan shook her head. She felt that it was a little unbelievable. When did you discover that Guyuna was a soul beast? Bibidan asked. I'll have to start from the trip to the extreme north. I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me, but I didn't have a good time in the extreme north because Obuchi personally told me that he was going to give you the main palace. I was really shocked at that time. You also know that once a person's spirit is shocked, especially when it happens to me, they like to worry about personal gains and losses. Therefore, I paid special attention to every word that Obuchi said. I still remember that Obuchi said that he had a soul beast bloodline. It wasn't as simple as a normal person with a dragon bloodline. Instead, he had a soul beast bloodline of a direct type. This meant that his soul beast bloodline was directly inherited from the previous generation. Therefore, the question is, even if Obuchi really did have a soul beast bloodline, how did he know? Obuchi was adopted by the fellow's father when he was young, so he didn't know the origin of his bloodline. He had been in the Martial Soul Palace since he was 6 years old, so he had no chance to know. The only chance he had was when he left the Heaven Do imperial family and went on his own. He went missing for a year, and I only found out later that he was in the Great Star Do Forest for that year. The Great Star Do Forest is a place where soul beasts live, so it goes without saying who told him. I think that the person who told him was most likely Guyuna. Not long after that, news of him and Guyuna spread. That time in the Misty Forest, Guyuna saved him, and we knew that he and Guyuna were together. The reason that Obuchi gave me at the time was that their bloodlines attracted each other. He had a golden dragon bloodline, while Guyuna had a silver dragon bloodline. The two of them were a match made in heaven, and were destined to be together. Seeing as Obuchi has a soul beast bloodline, does that mean that Guyuna also has a soul beast bloodline? Obuchi went missing for another year in the dense fog forest, and we found out that he was in the Great Star Do Forest with Guyuna during that year. Guyuna is a god from the Great Star Do Forest, and she also has a soul beast bloodline, so could she be a human? That's impossible. She could only be a soul beast, or she could be a silver dragon. As for her identity as the master of the dragon clan, that's even easier to guess. Golden dragons and silver dragons are two of the most powerful branches of the dragon clan, and Guyuna has both power and a powerful bloodline. If she's not the master of the dragon clan, who else could she be? Also, you know that Obuchi gave me and Hulina 100,000-year-old soul beasts, right? Chihiro Snow asked. I know. He also gave me a 100,000-year-old bloodwing golden mosquito and a 1,000-year-old Neptunia. Bibidan nodded with a blissful smile on her face. Lu Yuan was extremely good to her. Let's not talk about you for now. Obuchi brought them back from the massacre city and Sea God's Island. We know their origins, so let's talk about me and Hulina first. Little Yuan gave me a 100,000-year radiant unicorn and Hulina a 100,000-year eight-tailed illusion fox. Both of them are very compatible with me and Hulina. It's already very difficult to find a 100,000-year soul beast, let alone a 100,000-year one. This is more than 100 times more difficult. Also, those were 100,000-year-old soul beasts. They were sacrificed without any hesitation. Obuchi even told me to revive them after I became a god. I really want to know where Obuchi got them, and why they listened to Obuchi so much. Even if Obuchi has the Golden Dragon's bloodline, he's still a human. Would 100,000-year-old soul beasts listen to him so wholeheartedly? Also, is it so easy to find 100,000-year-old soul beasts just like that? But if it was Gu Yuna who gave the order, then it couldn't be more normal. With her status, it'll be easy for her to find 2 such soul beasts among the many soul beasts and make them willing to sacrifice themselves. Chihiro Snow spoke softly with a wise light in his eyes. Lu Yuan had obtained those 2 soul beasts from the system, but he didn't expect Chihiro Snow to interpret them like this. But Chihiro Snow's words made some sense. At the very least, Bibidon nodded in agreement. Chihiro Snow smiled faintly and continued, "All of the above are reasonable speculations, and the most direct evidence is that after I became a god, I discovered a wisp of unusual aura on Gu Yuna's body. When I focused my gaze on it, I discovered that there was a mystical power concealing something from her body, which further confirmed my guess that Gu Yuna is definitely not a human. Although she's also a god, she's very different from an orthodox god like me. She's a soul beast god, and according to the angelic inheritance I received, soul beast gods are targets that the divine realm must kill." At this point, Chihiro Snow sighed and said, "Obuchi really is a troublemaker. Falling in love with such an existence, I'm afraid that many things will happen in the future. It's indeed a bit troublesome, so what do you plan to do?" Bibidon asked. "What else can I do? Obuchi is my man, so I can only support him. What can I do to support the divine realm in killing Gu Yuna? If I do that, Obuchi will definitely hate me for the rest of my life, and I suspect that he already knows that I know Gu Yuna's identity. Back then, perhaps he intentionally said those words. He didn't want to hide it anymore, so he inadvertently left some clues to lead us to the truth, or perhaps he also had the intention of probing. I didn't do anything, so he was relieved, and simply went into seclusion. You don't know, but before this guy left, he accompanied me alone for a week. In fact, he might have been observing me for the last time. This man's thoughts are too deep," Chihiro Snow said with a wry smile. Bibidon fell silent. According to her understanding of Lu Yuan, this kind of thing was something that Lu Yuan was capable of. "This bastard, he hasn't done a single thing," Bibidon lightly scolded, somewhat annoyed. Of course, she wasn't annoyed that Lu Yuan fell in love with Gu Yuna, but that Lu Yuan revealed the clues to Chihiro Snow, and not to her. Could she be more stupid than Chihiro Snow? That's why sometimes women's focus is really different from men's. Because Lu Yuan didn't think so much at that time, he simply didn't want to hide it. As for accompanying Chihiro Snow, it was because Chihiro Snow had a conflict with Gu Yuna in the fog forest, and he was simply a little worried. This was the helplessness of having multiple wives. He had to take care of everyone's thoughts to avoid possible chaos. Okay, you don't have to be jealous. He didn't observe you because he didn't worry about you, and he also didn't worry about other people. I'm the only one who quarreled with him, and I have some disagreements with Gu Yuna, so it's inevitable that he has some scruples in his heart. I can understand," Chihiro Snow said in a low voice. Hearing this, Bibidon was slightly surprised. Chihiro Snow seemed to have changed a lot. "Cher, you've really matured a lot. In the past, you wouldn't say such things," Bibidon said softly. Chihiro Snow shook his head and said, "People will always grow after experiencing setbacks. Obuchi said that I was too arrogant, so he removed my main wife. I also carefully thought about it, and I feel that what he said is somewhat reasonable. Compared to you, I do have a lot of shortcomings. Moreover, Obuchi's love for me has been tested and tempered many times. It's already very rare that we can be so loving together now. I don't want to be at odds with Obuchi anymore, so I will learn to understand him." Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Well said, you've indeed grown a lot. If you were like this from the beginning, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to snatch your main wife away from you in my lifetime. You don't know how many times I've pestered Obuchi for the position of main wife. I've used all kinds of tricks, but this guy still struggled for so long. Bibidon smiled gently, and his words were full of sincerity. Chihiro Snow smiled faintly. She didn't care about being the main wife anymore. She had already found a better position. Furthermore, as long as Lu Yuan still loved her the most, it didn't matter whether she was the main wife or not. Next, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip to the Great Star Do Forest. I'll stay behind to guard. I have a feeling that this crisis will come soon. Chihiro Snow said to Bibidon. Then be careful. If you can't beat them, run. It's fine even if the Holy Emperor Palace is destroyed. You should know what Obuchi values the most. Bibidon reminded her. Don't worry, I know. If things don't work out, I'll retreat. Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Okay, then I'll go. Bibidon nodded. He gently waved his hand and a spatial crack appeared. She directly disappeared into it. Lu Yuan had taught her how to use the power of space. Although she couldn't directly teleport across the continent like Gu Yuna and Lu Yuan, she could still travel hundreds of miles every time she teleported. It was much faster than flying. Watching Bibidon's figure disappear, Chihiro Snow picked up the teacup again and took a sip. Her eyes were a little absent-minded. I'm really not used to not having you around. I'm actually a little scared to face a crisis alone. Chihiro Snow murmured softly. Lu Yuan's imposing figure appeared in her mind. No matter what difficulties she faced in the past, Lu Yuan would always stand in front of her. But this time, she had to guard the martial spirit palace alone. Don't worry, Obuchi. I won't let you down. I'll hold on until you come back. Chihiro Snow clenched her fists. Her eyebrows were filled with determination. Chapter 1163. The Dragon Valley Miniature World. Lu Yuan remained seated in the dragon's tomb as he radiated with a resplendent white light. The endless white light enveloped him completely. His eyes were tightly shut. Clearly, he had sunk into the deepest level of meditation. Gu Yuna sat on a rock as she stared at Lu Yuan with her purple eyes. There was some joy in her eyes. It's like he's there, but it's also like he's not there. His body has merged with the world. Obuchi's presence is becoming more and more ethereal. If I wasn't looking at him, I wouldn't have noticed his existence at all. In my senses, Obuchi is nothing, Gu Yuna sighed. Gu Yuna sighed softly. Her eyes were filled with amazement. She was a godly king expert, and it was no exaggeration to say that her mental strength was the best in the world. Even the 5 godly kings of the divine world were far inferior to her in terms of mental strength. However, even with her mental strength, she was unable to detect Lu Yuan's existence at all, even though Lu Yuan was sitting nearby. Lu Yuan seemed to have completely merged with the world. He was the sky, he was the earth. It was as if he didn't exist, yet he was everywhere. What a strange feeling. However, does this mean that Obuchi isn't far from becoming a god? Gu Yuna murmured softly. Lu Yuan had already comprehended her power of creation a long time ago. Right now, he was comprehending the most mysterious power of destiny. The power of destiny was of an extremely high level. It was only below Lu Yuan's power of laws. After all, in the publicly acknowledged legends, there were 3,000 great ways. Strength was the general principle, destiny was not involved, karma was first, time was supreme, and space was king. Without a doubt, the great way of strength was the most powerful. This was because everything that could increase one's strength and cause destruction belonged to the great way of strength. The great way of strength was never a simple power. Instead, it encompassed almost all powers, including the power of space, time, karma, and so on. This was why the great god Pangu was so powerful in the legends, able to kill 3,000 people by himself. This was because he grasped the great way of strength. Besides the grand Tao of strength, the grand Tao of destiny, karma, time, space, and the other grand Taos of time were the most mysterious amongst them. Lu Yuan's power of rules actually represented the origin of all things. It was the rules of the universe's operation. It was not a simple Tao, but a fusion of various laws. It was similar to the great Tao, including the law of force. Thus, the power of rules was extremely mysterious and could create many impossible miracles. Moreover, it was also very difficult to directly comprehend. Thus, Lu Yuan borrowed the power of the source of all things to reverse engineer the power of rules. Now that he was about to finish comprehending it, he was only left with the power of destiny. However, the power of fate wasn't something that could be easily pried into, so Lu Yuan was completely immersed in it now. Although he was only one step away from becoming a god, no one could say for sure when he would be able to take this step. It might take a few years, or it might happen immediately. The key was still Lu Yuan's own comprehension. Sigh, I hope Obuchi can quickly comprehend it, Gu Yuna sighed. She hadn't spoken to Lu Yuan for a few months, and she missed him very much. Furthermore, ever since Lu Yuan had immersed himself in comprehending the power of fate, they hadn't spoken again. However, Gu Yuna seemed to have thought of something. She placed a hand on her stomach, and a gentle smile appeared on her face. Reality proved that after walking by the river for a long time, one's shoes would definitely get wet. However, this wet shoe was very delightful. I wonder how Obuchi will react when he finds out. Gu Yuna's lips curled up into a beautiful smile. As soon as she said that, Gu Yuna's expression suddenly changed. She could sense a faint resistance from the small world. Someone's coming? Gu Yuna's expression changed slightly. Who would come to the Dragon Valley at this time? Was it Di Tian and the others? Guessing in her heart, Gu Yuna glanced at Lu Yuan. Her figure flashed and turned into a silver light, flying toward the turbulence. No matter what happened, she could not let them disturb Lu Yuan, who was at the most critical moment. Gu Yuna's speed was extremely fast. In just a short while, she had already arrived at the source of the disturbance. After tearing open the barrier of the small world, Gu Yuna saw Di Tian. Di Tian, didn't I tell you not to disturb me if there's nothing important? What are you doing in the Dragon Valley? Do you know that Obuchi is at a critical juncture right now? If you disturb him, you'll die 10 times over. Gu Yuna's face stiffened as she stared at Di Tian with her purple eyes. A terrifying pressure radiated from her. How could Di Tian resist the pressure of a godking's gaze? Di Tian's legs immediately gave out, and he knelt onto the ground. I understand. I have something important to report. Please calm down, master. Di Tian lowered his head and said softly. What is it? Speak. If it's not important, you should know what will happen to you. Gu Yuna's tone was cold. She was really angry. Not only had Di Tian disobeyed her orders, but he had also almost startled Lu Yuan. It should be known that once this kind of deep comprehension was interrupted, it would be very difficult to enter that mysterious state again. This would directly affect Lu Yuan's path to becoming a god, so how could Gu Yuna not be angry? I've received news that the Martial Spirit Palace is going to be in great danger. Master, you know how important the Martial Spirit Palace is to the Honorable One. I wouldn't dare to not report such news, Di Tian hurriedly said. He naturally knew that disturbing Gu Yuna would cause her displeasure. However, since Bibidan had personally sent the message, how could he dare to not come? If he didn't come and something really happened to Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan would definitely be furious. Not only would he be killed by Lu Yuan in a fit of rage, but even the Soul Beast clan and Gu Yuna would be affected by Lu Yuan's anger. Di Tian had some understanding of Lu Yuan's character. He was truly unscrupulous. If he was angry, the terror would be unimaginable. Great danger? Chihiro Snow has already become a god. What great danger would there be? Could it be that the two women want to see Obuchi and are deliberately playing tricks? Gu Yuna muttered softly. This subordinate doesn't think so. This letter was personally sent by the Empress of the Martial Soul Empire, Bibi Dong. Furthermore, my lord, there is something this subordinate wants to tell you. They already know your true identity and your relationship with us. Di Tian said respectfully. What? Gu Yuna was slightly shocked. Bibi Dong and the others knew her true identity? What do they think of me? Gu Yuna asked. I can't tell. However, that Bibidan's attitude is quite good. She also looks very anxious. She doesn't seem to be lying. Di Tian thought for a moment and said softly. Chapter 1164. Oh! Gu Yuna paused for a moment, and her purple eyes flickered. I didn't expect them to have such a strong reaction after finding out my identity. Gu Yuna stroked her chin, and there was a hint of surprise in her eyes. Humans and soul beasts weren't mortal enemies, but they definitely didn't like each other. In the eyes of humans, soul beasts were heretics. She thought that Chihiro Snow, Bibi Dong, and the others would be very opposed to her after her identity was exposed. She didn't expect them to be so nice about it, and that was a little surprising. But how did they find out about my identity? Did Obuchi tell them? Gu Yuna muttered to herself as she speculated in her heart. She was also a woman with many thoughts. In the beginning, she often schemed against Lu Yuan, but Lu Yuan didn't like women who played tricks with him, so Gu Yuna had always restrained herself. However, she couldn't help but be tempted again after encountering this situation. Di Tian, did Bibi Dong say what kind of danger it was? Gu Yuna asked softly. No, but she said that Chihiro Snow sensed that danger was coming, and they couldn't resist it. That's why she came to find me and told me to inform Supreme One. This matter is very important, and I didn't dare to delay it, so I hurried over. Di Tian told her everything in detail. Is that so? That means Chihiro Snow was the one who told her about this. Gu Yuna muttered to herself as she pondered quietly. To be honest, she was doubtful about the authenticity of this matter. That was because she didn't think that there would be any danger. The continent had been swept clean by Lu Yuan, and it was very peaceful. There was no danger that would come just because he said so. Therefore, it was very likely that this matter was fabricated by Chihiro Snow. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. If danger really came, and she didn't do anything because she didn't believe it, and something happened to Qian Rinxue, then her relationship with Lu Yuan would definitely be broken. Even the hope of the soul beasts would be completely destroyed. She had been in love with Lu Yuan for many years, and she understood Lu Yuan's personality too well. Lu Yuan was usually harmless, and he seemed to have a good personality. He also doted on them a lot, but that was only when they didn't touch his reverse scale. Lu Yuan didn't care about power or money. He only cared about the people around him. In other words, they were Lu Yuan's reverse scale, and Chihiro Snow was undoubtedly the reverse scale of all reverse scales. If anyone dared to hurt her, Lu Yuan would definitely explode. Gu Yuna had never seen Lu Yuan go berserk, but she knew that it was extremely terrifying, and the price was not something that she could bear. Putting aside whether or not Lu Yuan would attack her, he would definitely hate her for the rest of his life. Furthermore, Lu Yuan would definitely kick the soul beast race to the side without hesitation to take revenge on her. Lu Yuan would definitely do such a thing. Thinking of the consequences, Gu Yuna's heart trembled. Therefore, no matter whether this crisis was real or not, she had to treat it as real. However, even though she said that, she had to consider it carefully. If the crisis wasn't real, then what was Qian Rinxue trying to do by going through so much trouble? Was it really as simple as asking Obuchi to go back? Or was there an ulterior motive? On the surface, it was asking Obuchi to go back, but in fact, it was targeting her? This wasn't impossible. After all, her identity had been exposed. She didn't believe that Chihiro Snow and Bibidon really didn't have any thought. When she first found out about Chien Rinshua's identity, she wanted to kill her. Judging others by their own standards, she felt that Chien Rinshua and Chien Rinshua would not accept her so easily. Could it be that they want to harm me? Gu Yuna secretly thought, but immediately denied her own thoughts. No, it's just as I thought. If something happened to Chihiro Snow, Obuchi would explode. If something happened to me, Obuchi would also explode. They wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Gu Yuna murmured softly. She believed in the relationship between Lu Yuan and her. She could feel that Lu Yuan loved her very much. Even if Chihiro Snow and Bibidon knew her identity, they wouldn't dare to harm her. They also didn't dare to bear Lu Yuan's wrath. Forget it. No matter what tricks they're playing, someone has to go. Obuchi can't leave now, so I can only go. Gu Yuna said softly, and there was a hint of determination in her purple eyes. My lord, you want to go in person? I feel that it's a bit inappropriate. Hearing Gu Yuna's soft voice, Di Tian couldn't help but ask. What's inappropriate? Gu Yuna asked indifferently. If the crisis is fake, as you said, and they have some strange plans, then it's fine. At most, it's just a small dispute because they wouldn't dare to harm you. But if the crisis is real, and Chihiro Snow can't defeat them, you will definitely have to take action. When that time comes, once your strength is exposed, the God Realm will definitely discover your whereabouts. How dangerous is that? My lord, you should go and wake the lord up. It's more appropriate for my lord to go. Di Tian said with a serious expression. No, we definitely can't wake Obuchi up. This is the most crucial step for him to become a god. We definitely can't disturb him. He is the hope of our Soul Beast clan. Only when he becomes a god can we truly rise up. Do you understand? Therefore, to us, there's nothing more important than Obuchi becoming a god. Even if something happens to me, we can't wake Obuchi up. Furthermore, I'm much stronger than before. The God Realm won't be able to catch me for a while. Furthermore, even if they can't defeat me, I can still escape. No one understands space better than I do. They won't be able to catch up to me. I can easily drag things out until Obuchi comes out of his closed-door cultivation. When that happens, it'll be their time of death. Therefore, don't worry, I'll be fine. Gu Yuna waved her hand and said nonchalantly. If it were before, she would still have to hide. It wasn't for her, but for Lu Yuan. She wanted to give him enough time to grow. But now, Lu Yuan was about to become a god. She felt that it wouldn't be a big deal even if she was exposed. She no longer feared the God Realm. Then I'll go back and reorganize the team in the Great Star Do Forest. We'll be ready to support you at any time. Di Tian's heart skipped a beat when he heard Gu Yuna's words. He knew that Gu Yuna had already made up her mind, and he couldn't change her mind. Therefore, he immediately took a step back and made other plans. They weren't very powerful, but they could at least block the sword for Gu Yuna so that she could escape more easily. All right, I'll leave it to you. Gu Yuna hesitated for a moment, but still chose to agree. Di Tian and the others wouldn't be of much help in a battle like this. However, they had good intentions, and she didn't want to dampen their enthusiasm. Furthermore, the rise of the Soul Beasts was a matter that concerned the entire Soul Beast race. They had an obligation to participate, even if they might die if they did. However, this was their choice. Even though she was the master of the Soul Beasts, she couldn't interfere in this matter. Thank you, Master. I'll go back and make the arrangements right away. Di Tian bowed again before standing up. A loud dragon's roar rang out, and he transformed into a massive black dragon that tore through space and swept away. Gu Yuna's expression changed slightly, and her eyes flickered. Moments later, she sighed softly and walked into the Dragon Valley. In the dragon's tomb, Gu Yuna looked at Lu Yuan, who was still immersed in his meditation. Her eyes were filled with love and tenderness. Obuchi, I didn't think that things would come to this. My identity has been exposed in the end. Do you think that Chihiro Snow is targeting me, or is there really a crisis? You're always so active, but when I really need you, you can't leave. Do you know that? I really need you to accompany me right now. Oh right, I really want to ask you something. If they were to fight with me, who would you side with? You've always been biased toward them in the past. If you still dare to be biased this time, I definitely won't forgive you. I can't beat you, but I can bully your son. Humph. Gu Yuna stroked her belly as a hint of affection flashed through her eyes, and she couldn't help but let out a soft moan. Of course, if some kind of enemy really does descend upon us, I'll take care of them for you. I know you love them dearly, so I'll ensure their safety. However, you have to remember that I've protected your women, so you have to compensate me after you wake up, alright? I don't want anything else, just stay with me. You have to stay with me for at least a month. No, at least 3 months. I definitely won't let you go until 3 months have passed. A sweet smile appeared on Gu Yuna's face as she clenched her little fist. Also, if I make a move, the divine realm will definitely sense it. At that time, the gods will descend to the divine realm to capture me. If you don't come in time, 2 lives will be lost. I'll see if you regret it at that time. So, you have to quickly finish comprehending it, then fight your way to the divine realm and kill all the gods. Gu Yuna giggled as she looked at Lu Yuan with a gentle expression. Then I'm going now. Gu Yuna took another longing glance at Lu Yuan before quickly disappearing into the small world, as a streak of dazzling silver light. Meanwhile, the white light emanating from Lu Yuan's body became even more pronounced, and it was flashing as if it were responding to something. In the martial spirit palace, Chihiro Snow was standing in midair in a set of dazzling divine armor. The 5 pairs of snowy white wings on his back were gently flapping, and rich light power was converging around them. Chihiro Snow wore a serious expression as he stared intently at the distant sky with his golden eyes. Her predictions had come true. Danger had indeed arrived, and it had arrived extremely quickly. Boundless darkness had obscured the entire sky, and only a small patch of light remained above her head. The darkness was boundless, and she couldn't see the end of it. The entire Martial Soul City, and even the entire Martial Soul Empire, was shaken because this darkness had engulfed the entire Douluo continent. From the outside of the Douluo star, one could see that the entire Douluo continent had been completely engulfed by darkness. Heaven and earth were dark, and one could barely make out the figures of people. Suddenly, an extremely powerful aura surged over, and Chihiro Snow's heart trembled slightly. He shifted his gaze, and a black figure slowly surfaced in his golden eyes. The black figure had the appearance of a middle-aged man, and he emitted a depraved and evil aura. 12 pitch-black wings were gently flapping on his back. 12-winged king of fallen angels. Chihiro Snow exclaimed involuntarily, and there was a strong sense of fear in his eyes. In the angel clan, the number of wings represented their strength. Every additional pair of wings represented a qualitative leap. Even though there was only a single pair of wings between her and the black figure, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. She was only a first-tier god, while the black figure's strength should be that of a god-king, a genuine god-king. How can an existence like the 12-winged king of fallen angels appear? How can this be? Chihiro Snow's heart pounded violently. A god-king expert, not to mention her, even Lu Yuan might not be able to defeat him. According to Lu Yuan's strength before he went into seclusion, perhaps he could only be comparable to a god-king if he used the god-slaying spear. She couldn't deal with such an opponent at all. Fortunately, I asked Bibidon to inform Tion to call Obuchi. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had a good time today. I just don't know when Obuchi will be able to make it in time. Chihiro Snow muttered softly, and couldn't help but grip the angelic holy sword in her hand tightly. If Lu Yuan didn't arrive in time, she would probably die here today. In front of a 12-winged fallen angel, who was also adept at flying, she wouldn't even have the chance to escape if she was defeated. However, Chihiro Snow didn't have the slightest intention of backing down. She could lose, she could die, but she would never admit defeat, and she would never run away without a fight. Whether it was for the dignity of the angel bloodline or her identity as the Saint Emperor's woman, she had to step forward bravely and protect the Saint Emperor's palace. Moreover, her innate pride wouldn't allow her to run away. Only Obuchi can make me admit defeat. No one else can, Chihiro Snow said softly, and an awe-inspiring aura exploded from her body. Resplendent light shone in all directions. With the help of the sun's energy, Chihiro Snow actually drove away the darkness above the martial spirit city completely. Interesting. Not bad. I didn't expect such an angel to exist. Lucifer raised his eyebrows slightly, and there was a hint of surprise in his tone. It seemed like he was surprised that a 12-winged angel still existed. I remember that ever since I killed that guy, the angel clan has declined. At most, there are only 6-winged angels left. But today I actually saw a 12-winged angel. How rare. Lucifer said softly, and looked curiously at Chihiro Snow. What's your name? The god of 12-winged angels, Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow said loudly, pointing her long sword horizontally. Chihiro Snow? That's a good name. Since you can cultivate to the level of a 12-winged angel, it seems that your talent isn't bad. I'll give you a chance. How about following me in the future? I promise that I won't treat you unfairly, Lucifer said indifferently. He was interested in Chihiro Snow. She was talented and beautiful. If he could take her in, it would be a wonderful thing. However, Chihiro Snow's reply made his face darken. Chapter 1165. You think you're worthy? Chihiro Snow's cold voice sounded. Her words were full of disdain. Looking at Lucifer's covetous eyes, Chihiro Snow's heart was full of disgust. She hated men looking at her with such eyes, except for Lu Yuan. Of course, Lu Yuan loved her and cherished her, so he would never show such eyes. His eyes would be hot and full of love, but they would never be lustful. In Chihiro Snow's view, she was the proud, pure, holy, and noble 10-winged angel god. In this world, except for Lu Yuan, no one was worthy of her. Who was this Lucifer? So what if he was the divine king? She could guarantee that Lu Yuan was definitely stronger than him. Even if it was her, she still had the chance to become the divine king in the future. However, thinking of Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but feel a little resentful. This guy wasn't even there when his wife was being bullied. He was really too much. You promised to protect me for a lifetime, but you actually let me face such a strong enemy alone. Humph. Chihiro Snow snorted, her heart was secretly worried. Of course, she knew that Lu Yuan couldn't be blamed for Lucifer's attack, but women always hoped that their men would be by their side when they were in danger, to shelter them from the wind and rain. Chihiro Snow was naturally no exception. She and Lu Yuan had a tacit understanding, and she was already used to Lu Yuan's protection and help. Suddenly facing such a strong enemy, she felt very insecure. Only when Lu Yuan was by her side, she felt at ease from the bottom of her heart. Chihiro Snow secretly thought, but Lucifer's face had completely darkened. He hated being rejected the most, not to mention Chihiro Snow actually said that he wasn't worthy. How could he not be angry? I'm not worthy? I'll let you see if I'm worthy or not later. Lucifer's scarlet eyes were filled with a strong desire to possess. Originally, he was only a little interested, but now he was determined to have this woman. Since she wasn't willing, then he could only force himself. 10-winged angel god, I'll show you how powerful I am. I'll make you kneel at my feet willingly and become my woman. A red light flashed across Lucifer's eyes, and a thick black fog rose from his body. It turned into a ferocious black dragon that was thousands of feet long. With a terrifying aura that could devour everything, it pounced towards Qianrenxue. In your dreams. Chihiro Snow's beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent as the angelic holy sword in her hand shone brightly. Angelic blade slash. Chihiro Snow gripped his angelic blade and slashed down. The energy sword, which was thousands of meters long, cut through the dark sky and struck the flood dragon with the power of light and darkness. Immediately, a loud explosion sounded out. The sword and the dragon attacked each other in the air, and then both of them turned into nothingness. Due to the force of the energy, Qianrenxue was pushed back over 100 meters before she could stabilize herself. So powerful! Chihiro Snow's hands trembled slightly. This was the first time she had fought a God King, but she felt a strong sense of powerlessness. Lucifer had merely condensed his aura on his own. He hadn't even made a move, yet he had already broken through her angel's light blade slash with all her strength and sent her flying back more than 100 meters. Was the difference in strength really that great? Chihiro Snow's heart gradually became gloomy. She suspected that she wouldn't be able to last until Lu Yuan came to her rescue. Chihiro Snow gripped her angelic holy sword tightly, and a determined look appeared in her eyes. Even if she couldn't defeat Lucifer, she was going to do her best to stall him. Even if she died, she wanted to see Lu Yuan one last time before she died. With that in mind, Chihiro Snow's aura surged. The angelic holy sword glowed with holy light, and she viciously slashed toward the darkness and evil. Outside the Dragon Valley realm, a spatial rift suddenly tore open in the sky, and a silver figure stepped out from within. Gu Yuna looked in the direction of the Douluo continent, and her beautiful purple eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. What dense darkness! This power belongs to a God King. Looks like something really has happened to Chihiro Snow. But why hasn't the divine realm reacted to the appearance of such a powerful being on the Douluo continent? Gu Yuna looked up into the sky as she murmured to herself. It would be best if the divine realm intervened to resolve the crisis that Chihiro Snow was in. In reality, she didn't want to do anything if she could avoid doing so, as she would expose her identity. She wasn't afraid of that, but it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Wouldn't it be better to just wait for Lu Yuan to emerge from seclusion? However, if the divine realm's reaction was delayed, then she had to save Chihiro Snow at the most appropriate time. In that case, she had to intervene. Otherwise, Lu Yuan would definitely blame her. So be it. Let's go take a look at the situation first. Gu Yuna murmured softly. She waved her hand and a spatial rift appeared again. Gu Yuna directly entered it. Outside the martial spirit palace, accompanied by a resounding sound of collision, Qianrenshue's figure flew out, and golden blood continuously flowed out from the corner of her mouth. One strike, just one strike, and Lucifer had not only broken her all-out angel's judgment, but also severely injured her. Her angel's domain and inherited divine skills were almost completely ineffective against Lucifer, and they were easily neutralized. His terrifying strength made her tremble slightly. Was this the difference between a first-tier god and a god king? It was like the difference between heaven and earth. She had used all her strength, but she couldn't even hurt a single hair on Lucifer's body. No wonder Lu Yuan always said that a first-tier god couldn't defeat a god king when they were together, even if they had a super divinity tool. He was just bragging when he said that he wouldn't lose to a god king. She didn't think much of it at the time, but now she finally understood that Lu Yuan was right. Compared to a god king, a first-tier god was really too weak. The two weren't even in the same dimension. If the difference between a limit Douluo and a god was the difference between an immortal and a mortal, then the difference between a first-tier god and a god king was the difference between heaven and earth. Damn it, how can he be so strong? Chihiro Snow wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his face was filled with reluctance. Obuchi, I can't hold on for much longer. If you don't come, I'm afraid. A trace of sorrow flashed through Chihiro Snow's eyes. Lucifer coveted her beauty, and if things really went south, she would definitely self-detonate to protect her chastity. But if she did that, she would never see Lu Yuan again. She wasn't afraid of death, but she was a little reluctant. She hadn't enjoyed life with Lu Yuan, and they hadn't nurtured the fruit of their love. She really couldn't accept dying like this. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.